So there's
Hello.
some people already in chat. I am Connor, and my commentator. You can introduce yourself.
I'm Ionatan Giurgiu, or in English you can just call me Jonathan, and I'll be also commentating on the matchup.
All right. Yeah, so today we have two very strong international masters in the club. One of them visiting from India, and one of them is our state champion. So Nubair versus Sammy or Samrug. And I believe Samrug today is running the black pieces. So let's take a look at the match.
Okay, so from what I've seen, I've looked at the first couple of moves, so it seems like it was in English, and this is fairly standard. It's like if white plays d4, it's a typical Queen's Gambit declined, but Nubair surprises. There's like a little bit of a sideline with e4, or it's still a main move, but it's an interesting variation, kind of sidesteps those Queen's Gambit lines. And now here, black had a couple options. One of them was d5, which it might get into a lot of theoretical moves. There's also c5 apparently, but Samrug, surprisingly, after thinking for about, let's say, 5 minutes, decides to play d6. Now I'm surprised. I thought he might have like known this line or like had something prepared, but maybe he's trying to get Nubair out of book.
That could
But
be.
it's slightly dubious, and I'm very interested to see how that goes. Let me just take a quick look at the d5 line. There's this sort of e5 push, and now there's d4 or knight e4, and they're all pretty interesting in terms of this. Okay, but maybe he didn't know the theory, which I can completely understand. If you don't know the theory of a specific line, then it's very difficult to get into it. So he played d6, now d4, and white gets a beautiful center, kind of like with the King's Indian setup, but in this case, black has the two central pawns up, and knight bd7, knight f3. And now Samrug decides to break with c5. The other way to try to get some of the control of the center is e5, but I mean, it's just kind of like a passive Pearts. So c5, and now after d5, we transpose into a type of Benoni structure where black has a d and c pawns on d6 and c5. White has advanced his own pawns, and it's a little bit uncomfortable for black. But what I know about the Benoni is that it can be very difficult to play, very tricky, especially to push for, like, to convert to win, because right now it's a bit better, but to convert to win is its own challenge. So bishop e7, and now there's this move h3, which I was surprised a little bit about. It seems to be theoretical, top engine move also, but what it does, it seems like it stops knight g4 to go to e5 and set up the blockade. Now I'm kind of wondering, why not? What happens if knight g4 now? Is it that
I think it's
bad?
probably playable, but at the same time, it's not very principled, and so maybe Samrug is unfamiliar with this line. It's entirely possible. Though looking at the time usage, since his 4-minute think, he's only used about another minute. That being said, you do get plus 30 seconds every move, so he's used a little bit more. He could just be playing from, when he's watched in the past some master games, or maybe he knows this, or maybe he's bluffing and playing fast because he doesn't want his opponent to know that he's unfamiliar with this position.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I haven't seen Samrug ever play Benoni structures, and even from that first think on move 3 or 5 minutes, that's already something suspicious. But I mean, knight g4, yeah, I mean, it's like, why are you trying to get this in instead of developing your pieces? It makes sense. Very risky, I would say, to play something like that. I mean, it is one of the engine moves also, but it's still not that much of a better position. So let's see what happens. H3 preventing that knight G4, castles, bishop D3, normal developing so far.
Mm-hmm.
Rook E8, okay, pretty normal. Okay, knight F8.
Yeah, there's no real other square other than maybe the G6 square to put your knight. Plus, you need to get your light square bishop out, so it makes sense. I don't know what else you really play here. You can try and do some engine stuff with maybe A5. I don't actually know if that's an engine move, but A5 or A6 seem to make sense with maybe Rook B8 and try and force something like that. That's always risky, especially since your opponent has used almost no time. He's probably within his prep. So Knight F8, I think, is just a very solid move to try and get some piece activity. But I'm not actually sure what you're supposed to do as black here. You're very cramped on space. And I know all these Benoni structures, the computer always gives like plus anywhere between 1 and 1.5 to white. So it's always a little uncomfortable. It's not an opening I would happily go into. Could have been a move order thing here.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. It feels very cramped for black, and it's very hard to place all these pieces. I mean, eventually you're gonna have to probably break with A6 and B5, but the ordering of that, it just seems, yeah, it's just very uncomfortable. Now, yes, so I mean, I know that the engine was saying knight to F8 some time ago. Let me just see here. In this, it was in this position. It was suggesting knight to F8, so it is a typical plan. Now, why would it be slight inaccuracy? Why? It's not clear to me. To me, I might just play a move like that. So definitely, when I'm out of book or when I'm trying to, like I get surprised in the opening and I'm out of book, I definitely try to just play some normal solid moves, try to get developed, nothing too crazy. So that might be something of what's going on here, even though it's right now it's unclear to me why it's a small inaccuracy, but maybe we can figure that out later.
Yeah, and Samrug is playing quite quickly, so it's possible that he's played this in like some rapid games before, and he knows the structure because he's only down 3 minutes on the clock, and it looks like Nubair has been playing this like it's rapid or blitz. He's moving really fast. He's only 4 minutes down from the initial time, so it's maybe just they're both familiar with these ideas, but Nubair has been the one playing the more engine accurate moves, to say the very least. That being said, the evaluation is not substantially in white's favor yet.
And actually, that now I kind of remember one small detail there, because in this structure, I did normally see a lot of some of the games where black actually wants to put the knight on E5 and trade. And maybe that's the reason why, because this knight might have to go to E5 instead of to F8. Because from F8, it can go to G6, but from G6, it still can really only go to E5
Yeah.
or
And if the
H4.
idea is to get to E5, then maybe we see knight to D7, knight F D7, on knight on F6 to D7, if that's really like a critical plan. Something like this, just to gang up on the E5 square. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't really play this because I've never liked this as black.
Yeah, definitely. I also stay away from the Benonis. It's just not my style. But even then, this seems like a slightly worse version of the Benoni. Even it's just so much more comfortable for black, or for white. But let's see how is this white exactly pushed for a win? That's what I'm going to be very interested in today. Just how exactly is white gonna place their pieces, capitalize on the weaknesses.
This
So
bishop f4 is a little surprising because it looks like it walks into knight g6, and unless he's going to h2, I don't know any reason you would play this. And I feel like you want your bishop along this longer diagonal on maybe the like b2 square or c3 square rather than the h2 to d6 diagonal. But
I have a feeling that Nubair has seen this type of position and this type of idea, because this does happen. And normally, yes, if you're gonna place your piece where it gets hit right away, it's usually bad. But in this case, it will go to h2, and from h2 it's just very safe, and it's always going to be targeting this d6 pawn, which can be very annoying. Especially, for example, if the knight goes here, then the d6 pawn is even more weak. Let me just show an example. Like if this and knight b5, it's already a little bit annoying because this d6 pawn is so hard to defend.
Yeah.
Let's see, maybe if knight e5. Oh yeah, okay. So then you can take, and look at this. You give up that bishop. Looks like the purpose of the bishop is to give it up.
Ah, very pretty. Yeah.
And then to push this pawn to
Yep.
d6, and now
Bishop f8 is
there's
sad.
a lot of threats
Maybe,
going on.
maybe.
There's a threat of the bishop. There's a threat of knight c7 if the bishop moves. And if the bishop takes, of course,
That's a free
the knight
piece.
takes. And now the ultimate discovery, bishop takes h7, and you lose the queen. So yes, exactly. So I guess that might be one of the ideas for the bishop on h2. It's just so hard to defend that pawn. And even when I got myself, I'm maybe like practice games with the engine, this d6 pawn somehow always gets so weak against the engine. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, maybe Nubair has looked at this. I just I've never really played these, like I said, so Nubair probably has a better grasp on what should be happening than I do here. Because yeah, maybe this makes it very hard to develop. I can definitely see this being a critical line. So instead, we do see the bishop h2 instead of putting it along the other diagonal. And yeah, long-term pressure against this backwards d pawn. And then after that, we see, I believe, bishop d7 was played, just trying to finish development in this position.
Yeah, so this is another way to develop. I kind of wonder what the goal is. I'm still thinking that the a6 and b5 is the ultimate goal, or maybe in bishop f8 and knight e5, but none of those plans seem so like that good actually. Like it's still not going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
So let's see. It plays rook to b1. Interesting. It seems like he's going for b4, and it's an interesting idea. I haven't really normally seen rook b1 and b4 in the Benoni. Haven't seen it too much. Computer suggesting a4, and just get a sort of structure like this, and it's just very, very close on the queen side, and then I guess you can jump in the center or knight b5.
Yeah,
So
but
let's
this
see.
idea seems very principled with rook b1 though, because you do want to open up the queen side and maybe create some pressure there, especially since your dark squared bishop is pointing towards that side of the board. So maybe the idea is just create an attack with some probably a3, b4, and create some pawn storm.
Yeah, a3, b4. Definitely, I mean, I can see if you open up the queen side, for example, if you get b4 in and he takes, then that rook's gonna be very good. But I imagine after b4, he's gonna play b6, and he's gonna keep this thing as locked as possible. Unless, actually, I'm seeing another possible idea. Let me just make one more. So he goes a3. Now, yeah, there's possibly another idea. For example, if let's just play some moves on the board, and if something like b4 and b6, I wonder about taking here. Yeah, so taking here now, black has to take with the queen, because if black has to take with this pawn, now actually this open file is very unpleasant, and white has a lot to work with. It's got the b5 square, it's got this open file, and the d6 pawn's weak. It's just slightly uncomfortable. It's still a very comfortable position for white, and black is struggling. So that might be one reason. But yeah, after queen takes c5, this file is closed.
This weakness with the c pawn now. So maybe black is actually starting to play for something.
Yeah, there's the C pawn and the A pile is closed.
Exactly. So I don't know. Maybe this will happen on the board, though I do find it unlikely. I feel like Nubair is going to try to play something a little safer than this because this seems very unclear just looking at it. We never know.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why the engine's suggesting in this case to go B5
Yeah,
and
which is, I
lock
think,
up
more
this pawn
principled.
structure.
Yeah, and B5 is just trying to play against the light squared bishop. It's also trying to play against the entire queen side, because in this position the only real like powerful pawn break here is going to be with the A pawn pushing through. And if we see A6, I think we're very happy as white to take that pawn and just target the backwards B pawn at that point with our rook that's already set up very nicely. So this is probably what I would choose and likely what Nubair will be choosing. And I think Samrug probably sees this too, so I have a feeling he won't allow this.
Now, what could be the best plan? Like, what would the engine be doing here for both sides? For example, after bishop f8, b4 is not exactly one of the moves. Now, if b4, c takes, a takes, okay, and looks like even a simple move like a6 waiting,
Yeah,
and
it's
looks
playable.
like black has less weaknesses and slightly more active position. Like the bishop's a little bit more open. He's got a rook for the c file that's open. Yeah, it does seem a little bit more comfortable. So I guess if b4 he can take.
Bishop f8
Now,
may not be played though, because this plan, even though it opens the rook file, it's not really doing a lot. Every single square in this file is controlled by the white pieces. So I don't know how valuable Samrug will find this. I might expect something like knight to h5, trying to go knight to f4, or something along these lines, because this seems active, and your knights don't look like they're doing a ton as of now.
yeah, so yeah, bishop f8 was just the move that I played right
Yeah,
now, just to
and
see
it
the
makes
white's
sense.
plan. If not at knight h5, okay, it's a move. I guess you can play queen d2 or c2, but queen d2 at least stops this move.
Mhm.
So what is white's, or I mean black's best defense here? So it seems like if black plays a6, is he gonna go b5 next? No, b5 is still not quite an option. Queen c8 and then b5. So why not b5 here? C takes,
Saves.
and I guess this is
Or you just lose the d.
quite solid. Okay,
Nice.
okay, I see.
Okay.
So
Fair, fair,
b5 you just take it. b5 you can just take, but why is it that after queen c8 that you can play b5 then? What's the
Maybe
difference
this
here?
knight tempo is important, possibly.
Ah, okay. Actually, no, black is not taking on b5 here. You need to play c4 first, and
Ah,
then you can take on b5, and then you have a very, very good structure. So then why do you need to play queen c8? Then that's the new question. So
let's
b5
invest.
takes c4.
And then
Ooh, okay.
do we tempo
There's
with
oh, I
d6?
see. Yes, it's
Yes.
b6.
Yeah, yeah.
b6, great move here. Now, since the queen's on c7, you can try to deflect the queen from the defense of this c4 pawn. Wow, what a great detail here. And then black doesn't get his strong structure. So that's a very interesting idea. So with a6 and queen c8 and then b5 is a very interesting move, and getting c4 in. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
something like knight d2 might stop this, but it's going to be a game afterwards.
Yeah, and I don't suspect this will happen on the board. This seems a little, unless it's been studied before, this seems a little too computerish to
Yeah,
play
I
all.
mean, I'll be super surprised if I see a queen c8. Um,
Yeah.
but even then, maybe like a rook b8 and try to go for b5. I mean, a6 still makes sense though. It's a typical move. And b4 is not that good. So that, I mean, a6 seems like a good move, preventing b4.
A6 is maybe a move I would expect Samrug to play, because A6 has a concrete idea, just stopping any knight B5 tricks in the future and also preparing this B5 push. So I think this is a strong candidate move for the white, or for the black pieces for sure.
So you said you're expecting to see this then?
Yeah, this is the moves I was expecting was A6 or knight H5 or maybe some rook B8, something along those lines. Just because they feel very human, and I can understand them. But maybe, I mean, Samrug is in the tank. He's been thinking for, I think, about 10-ish minutes. Yeah, it looks like he's 13 minutes into a think. So maybe he's finding some deeper plan than the quick ones that we were looking at here. And we'll see. A6, I think, is probably gonna be one of the top engine moves, just because it seems most principled. And we do see A6. Samrug chooses A6. That's not so shocking, because there's not a lot you can do as black. There are very few moves. White has done a really good job of tying up both of your bishops, and your knights don't have any great squares. So the only thing you can really play for is grabbing some space, and A6 definitely aims to do this.
Now, I wonder if White is going to go ahead with the B4 plan, because if that happens, surprisingly, White will lose a lot of his advantage, and it's actually not, to me, not very clear why like if I just look at the position after takes, actually wait a second. Actually, in this case, you don't even take it, because we were looking at bishop f8 and takes. And that's good, but in this case with A6,
can you go B6 or B5?
Yes, B5. It's a great move. B6. Once again, I guess you can just take it, and you have a little bit of a weakness now that A6 has been played. It's a little bit worse than B4, because this pawn is weak on B6.
I guess, yeah.
And if B takes, once again, the B file is just allowing White to be very comfortable, and White can do basically whatever. Now, yeah, I'm definitely wondering if B4, B5, that is the best move here. Now, clearly, it's a similar idea. I'm guessing. Actually, yeah, I mean, in this case, yeah, C4 will not work because of this B6 move in between, which is what an idea we did look at. But in this case, he can take over here, and now this knight is hit two different ways. So White cannot even recapture on B4 because the knight hangs. So that is the idea. And if B takes, then queen takes, and this knight is still hanging. So it's I guess, yeah, so B4 is a bit of a problem because the knight on C3 becomes loose.
Yeah, so maybe then we'll see something like queen B3 or queen C2 to hold the knight, or maybe queen D2. I'm not sure what's best here.
Now the good news is that Black might not be, maybe Black is not threatening anything right now. If we look at the threat, once again, the computer wants queen C8 as the next move for Black. In that case, all you need to do is not play B4 right away. Probably fix the issue with the knight first. Now, there are some options. You could play A4 as White to just completely lock out this pawn break, and then do your thing on the king side and try to push over there. Now, another move, it seems to be knight D2. Now, if B5, you can just take it, and well, there's no compensation. And if rook B8, okay, you still, one of the ideas is to just completely lock the B5 square, apparently.
Knight D2 is definitely something I would expect to see. I would be shocked if we saw A4, because it just seems to play against what White's plan was earlier. I mean, if you're going to commit to A3 rook B1, it's very hard to go, I'm going A4 here, because saying I made a mistake earlier. Because if you go A4, your rook is almost better on the A file, and your A3 move is just a waste. But if you go knight D2, you have ideas of maybe like going F4, and like attacking like this. Another move, queen to B3, I think, would be the other move I would expect from Nubair in this position, because it just seems to restrict everything, and you're just going to swing your pieces in. It feels very solid to me.
Yeah,
So
definitely
those
queen
are the
b3.
things I would expect.
Queen b3 is surprising. To me, it's surprising because, you know, you block your b pawn, and it is one of the top engine moves also.
Interesting.
But it does seem like it holds b5, and it of course holds c4 here, defends c4, and it defends b5 one more time, and it's just very solid.
Mhm.
But what would be your next move for white? If you play queen b3, computer wants the next move to be
I
something
don't
like a4. So it seems like a4 is in a lot of these lines and with the engine. That is the surprising part. It just wants to go a4 and lock out the queen side. Now, one of the things I was thinking about with knight d2, the threats, not only a4, but it can be also g4, because once the queen side is locked, you need to focus somewhere else, because you're not going to be able to do anything on the queen side once it's locked. So you have to possibly start attacking on the king side with your pawns, like g4 and f4. That could be what will happen in the game.
Mhm.
If we see a king side attack, that will be very exciting. I'll be ready to like spectate that.
That would be incredibly exciting. That's a great way to create fireworks, and I kind of do hope that happens. But I do suspect that's not happening, because if we look at the position, all of black's pieces are on the king side, and so it feels a little risky to start pushing pawns in front of your king. The only thing that black doesn't have is their queen. Their d6 pawn is blocking their queen out. But I mean, if we see some kingside attack, we may see queen c8, which was one of the top engine moves, because that justifies queen c8. It's going to help you bring your queen back into the game, maybe even sacrifice the bishop for a nasty attack.
Hmm. Now let's see. Now, sorry, I need 1 second to get a tissue.
Yeah.
Just 1 second.
Yeah, and in this position, I have an engine running over here because, mind you, these players are about 200 points higher rated than both of us. So some of their plans might be a little bit too deep, especially considering that we're thinking, you know, while we're talking, we're not going to be able to analyze as well. So we have our engine running over here, and a4 is the best move according to my computer at the very least, which I will say I would never expect that to be played in a million years. That's admitting I screwed up. I'm not going to be playing a4, because that's telling my opponent, yeah, you got me, you tricked me, I did the wrong plan. And that's just, as a chess player, especially at a higher level, it's very hard to admit you're wrong. You kind of just
You know,
go.
actually, it's about this thing with seeming like you're trying to play b4 and you're trying to go for one plan, and then the computer and everybody's telling you you got to switch, you got to abandon that plan. It is very difficult, but I have had situations even in my games where I've made, like, there's one specifically where I made two knight moves somewhere, and then I realized it doesn't do anything, and then the next two moves were just going back with a knight. And I mean, it does feel bad, but sometimes if you just have to do it, I think you just have to do it, and you have to
Yeah.
be objective. And in this case, even though you wasted some time with a3 and rook b1, if you play a4, I mean, the position is still very close. It's not going to be like black is getting like two crucial tempos in the attack and you're going to lose. You still
Yeah.
have a lot of time to work with, so you can change plans, and you won't be in too much trouble.
Instead, we saw queen d2 on the board, which was kind of what I was expecting him to try and support this b push. One thing to note is queen d2 is x-raying the b4 square through the knight, so we might see something like knight to e2 and then knight to f4 in the future, something like this, just to support this b pawn push. But I'm actually not fully understanding the idea of queen to d2, other than maybe trying to force this push. Because now, I mean, rook to b8 looks very natural for black to try to create some play. Or, I mean, queen c8 is probably going to be the top computer move. I don't expect to see that play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
Knight queen d2. I mean, to me, if I'll be playing queen d2, The only reason, I mean, if I don't know exactly the plan or the correct way to go forward, I'd probably play a developing move, like just bring the queen out, connect the rooks. Next couple moves, maybe rook e1, maybe like rook somewhere to like c1, or rook the b rook somewhere, just to put the pieces in better squares, and you can figure out the plan in a couple of moves while your opponent's thinking, maybe, or just if you don't know what to do, I mean, I guess putting pieces on better squares is quite simple and safe. Now, obviously, the queen on d2 stops the knight from going to d2, which, so a little bit of a problem, but all in all, the advantage is still there. Now, I wonder, after queen d2, the threats. Yeah, so it seems like there's the next move for white will either, according to the computer, it still wants to be a4
I don't think
or
we'll ever see that
b3.
unless Samrug commits to something else, because that is a move that, unless you give me a good reason to, makes it seem like I'm saying, yeah, I was wrong. And that's not something anyone likes. And like you said, sometimes players like go, like in your case, you did 2 knight moves and you went, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Sometimes they see the light, but that's not common, especially when you're against someone equal in strength to you. You don't like admitting that you're wrong. If you're lower in strength, or if you're facing someone lower in strength, you go, you know what, I can afford those 2 knight moves. But when you're facing someone like Samrug, who's another international master, that it's a little bit more intimidating to me, at least.
I mean, I'll be very interested to see if a4, like if Nubair will be able to switch plans, because if he does, then I'll be very impressed, because you would be able to remain objective. But maybe even then it's still a little bit difficult to even know what the right plan is. Maybe you're just developing. I mean, if I'll be in this situation, I'll probably just play a couple safe moves, because it's not too clear how to actually try to push for the win. I mean, maybe he'll still play b4, because by the way, the problem with b4 was that the knight on c3 was a little bit loose. But in this case, the knight on c3 is being defended, so maybe he's preparing to play b4 on the next move. The next couple moves are going to be very interesting, very critical. They might swing up or down, or uh, I'm gonna be on the lookout for that. Now, actually, I wondered, while we're waiting, maybe we can take a look at one of the other games.
Yeah, one thing to note, there is a tournament going on at the Chess Castle right now, and there are a lot of strong players, and including one of our highest rated players in the state, Andrew Titus. So we can take a look at his game, as well as our board 2 in that tournament, while the featured match is thinking. So yeah, in this game, I believe it's Titus versus Ryan Zhou, and let's see how this game has gone so far.
Okay, so let's see. So we're gonna go a little bit more briefly through it, but it looks like we have a Caro-Kann. We have an exchange with 92 and knight c3 are just about the same because of the exchange. Bishop f5. Okay, so we have the bishop f5 line instead of the other typical knight f6 line. Knight g3. Okay, so now usually the main move here is h4, the most played move. Now apparently, actually, I'm looking at the computer evaluations. Bishop f4 is a possible move, which it seems like nobody has played this in the Masters. Bishop f4,
Yeah,
and
I'm not seeing
maybe it's something to look at later. But anyway, we might have to dig deeper and surprise our opponents. But anyway, we have a different way. I think I've seen maybe Tal. I've seen first Tal use this line with like 92 and possibly knight f4 and try to go after this bishop, because if you have a bishop here, it's always a pleasant advantage to try to build up. And okay, we have knight f6. I'm sure this is still theory for all players. h4, knight f4, bishop h7. Okay, so this seems like okay, Titus spent 2 minutes on this move, trying to trade some knights, and now oh, okay, I was expecting knight takes h5 and knight takes by whites to sort of hit the g7 square and not let the bishop develop. Okay, but we have queen takes, could still be prep, could
Queen
still
f6
be.
is a strange move, though. I don't think Queen f6 would be on my radar. I'm surprised we didn't see knight d7 just to go for knight to f6.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there might be a small idea of knight takes c6, but I don't think that quite works.
I
Because
don't either.
yeah, because after knight takes c6, queen e7,
Yep.
your knight is pinned, and you're gonna lose it. But yeah, so after knight d7, which is the top move, bishop d3, takes, knight f6, queen f3.
And then develop
It's
your
just
bishop.
a small. It's a normal game. Maybe white might have ideas of g4 later, but there's always queen d5 for black. So black is pretty comfortable, but looks like with queen f6, I don't know if Ryan was still in the book because it does defend the e6 square, and yeah, that's mostly it though. It's not a bad move though.
No,
Maybe
it's not.
bishop d6 will hit the knight out of the good square.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this the typical plan, which was bishop d3 exchanging, and ooh, we have one of the other ideas. I'm sure Titus has. I'm actually I can't tell if Titus has looked at this. It's one of the top engine moves, rook h3, going for rook f3 and attack the queen. You might have come up with this on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think Titus is playing with some pretty high contempt here because his opponent is, I think, 200, 300 rating points slower than him, so he needs to create some attack. And I think Titus is trying to win right out of the opening, which can be very risky, but, if your opponent folds, this is a good way to get a quick match.
Yeah, so now with queen f5, this is a typical idea in the Caro-Kann to try to trade queens and try to go to the end game and try to avoid all the attacks. But it seems like in this case, so Titus did go queen e2 because in general, if you want more winning chances, you want to keep the queens on the board, try to create some threats. But apparently queen takes f5 would have been the best move with a +1 advantage. For example, after check, let's say the king moves and 95. It's a little bit difficult to see why this is so much better. I guess.
I don't know if it's
Um,
actually +1 in this position. The computer may just have some like internal algorithm or heuristic that's saying that, but I can't believe it's that good. Maybe
yeah,
maybe
it
it's
seems like
odd. It's just
it seems like a bit of a deeper stockfish like positional understanding kind of. It's hard for me to tell. Definitely. I don't know if I would have gone for this either. I'd probably have to play 10 more moves and try to see um why it's so hard for black. But
mhm.
yeah, apparently this is how white could have tried to go for an advantage. And yes, I am a depth 31 here, and it says it's plus 0.8 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I would probably choose queen e2 or something like that as well. c4. Ooh, we actually have a slight inaccuracy now. Yeah, that's the thing. Black's position and the pawn structure and all the pieces are just so solid. They're not easily attacked. Rook g3 is not possible because the bishop controls it. If rook f3, looks like any queen move will do just fine. And knight is coming to f6. It's very hard to actually break through here. So
Yeah.
Titus goes for c4.
And then probably
Mm.
castle here on queen side if he wants to be aggressive. King side, actually, maybe king side is a little too scary because of the rook. So maybe queen side castle, and actually black probably has, at least some pull because Titus's king is going to be maybe trying to hide on f1 or g1, but it feels a little scary.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, I think I remember seeing some other days where Titus has played this sort of. I think it was against Eddie one day, playing c5 and possibly swinging this a3 rook over to try to attack on the queen side, which I wonder if that's what happens later in the game. But yeah, for now, computer says castle's queenside. Black actually has an advantage because I'm guessing there's weaknesses on the d file. This overextension, it might just provoke or like create weaknesses for white. So let's see if black can exploit them. So castles was played. G4. Now it is a slight inaccuracy. It's hard to say why. Maybe it's just overextension.
I mean, queen to f6 and hit the center pawn, I guess.
Let me go
then
back.
after you hit the center pawn, bishop e3. But I'm not convinced this is any good because now my pieces are coming in.
Yeah, actually, it is tricky. That's for sure because queen f6 is the only move to keep an advantage, and after bishop e3 and e5, you can actually break into the center.
Yeah, Titus's king is just it's looking really suspicious.
Yeah, with the c3 pawn gone and the g pawn pushed. The g pawn, I mean, it's there, but you're not gonna break through this nice structure for black with those two pawns. So they're probably gonna become a bit of a weakness.
Is this what
But
Ryan
in the game, black makes a mistake actually. He plays queen to a5, and now after bishop d2 just developing, it's hitting the queen, and you have to start moving to awkward places. So we have queen c7, and the advantage completely shifts here.
Yeah, queen c7 is almost admitting you've made a mistake. But honestly, what other square? Do you go to like a4 and hit the c pawn, or maybe a6 is a safer way to hit the c pawn?
Yeah, I mean there is queen a6.
What do you do with queen now? It at least stops queenside castle. I think that's okay, but it's not a move that I'm so happy to play.
Yeah,
especially
definitely
there might be some pawn pushes to grab space, like maybe c5 in the future. And I don't know. Not right now, of course, but I don't know how happy I am.
Yeah, so in fact here, this is a very tricky move for white to deal with because the only good move for white here to keep some advantage is knight b4, which is a little bit odd, but after queen, oh, actually no, the queen takes c4, yeah, the pawn's defended. Okay, so basically black has to take it, and that's, I guess, the way to get us like a bishop for knight advantage, and you have more control now. But if b3, black can play c5, and all of a sudden, white's position is not as strong because black is like threatening stuff and threatening to open up the pieces, and everything will come in. So queen a6 would have been definitely a good try, but still very difficult to play. So here we have rook f3. Normal move, I might play something like that also. Now, it seems like knight f6 was the only good move here because it attacks the g4 pawn, actually, seems like. And yeah, the computer says yeah, I mean, either give it up or play rook to h3 back to defend it, which is funny.
Yeah, I think maybe he was seeing ghosts with g5 and thought g5 takes, bishop takes. It was scary, but this is nothing really. You can defend it with the bishop or the queen with bishop e7 or queen e7. I'd probably go bishop e7 here. And then
very solid.
And maybe he thought pawn takes and missed rook to h1. That's possible. Because if pawn takes, this is a big blunder. Now black is completely winning. Because now after queen blocks, rook takes queen, you're going to be winning the game just through attrition. You have enough material. So this could be something he missed.
Yeah, so knight f6 would have been a good try, but rook here, it's still not losing. It's still quite okay, but it's a little bit more uncomfortable. And we have, so it looks like bishop to, ooh, okay. So the way for white to keep an advantage here is bishop f4, queen a5, and either king f1 or b4.
I think king f1 is fine on b4. Well, no, b4 creates some attack, I guess. Fine.
Right. And yeah, it's still not like any actual winning advantage though. So we have g5 trying to, I guess, break apart the pawns. Maybe he's trying to go for g6 to break apart this pawn chain.
Can I
and
not win
try
a
to
pawn?
play what?
Queen h2 wins the h pawn, no?
Queen h2. Yeah, that is the suggestion from
Yeah, and
Stockbridge.
then I just go queen
Correct.
h4 and I win a pawn. And now
Yeah,
your
so
attack
queen
is
h2
silly.
threatens queen h1, queen f1, and queen takes rook.
Yeah, so
And she
castles
has to
is
go
what's first, and I
castles.
think I just take a free pawn. I'm
Yep,
not
that would
seeing
have been pretty clean pawn. But that didn't happen in the game though. On the game, black took on g5, takes, and e5 is small. It's tiny inaccuracy, but it's actually a good move. It's a good move. The only other thing would have been to play queen h2 castles and queen h5, which is very inhuman. So e5 makes a lot of sense. And now again, castles queenside would have been a good move because after this you can take the bishop and there's no pin on the e file because your king is out of there.
trying
So
to
that would
figure
have
out why
been
it's
good.
not a blunder here. Ah, okay. I was thinking e4 won a piece, but you have knight blocks. Okay, that makes sense. I
e4.
would have probably calculated e4 here because after queen e4, no, not here. Back up. Yeah, in this position, once he castles, or sorry, once he goes b4, then I was looking at e4, but after
Oh yeah,
queen,
actually yeah. Here after in the game when white plays d4, we have e4 here,
yeah, e4,
and
queen 4, bishop g5. But
yes, that is a good
but
discovery.
then
There's also bishop
this might
c5.
be losing. Oh, bishop c5, interesting.
Or they're both about the same. For example, after this takes.
But I'd
No.
actually miss his knight blocks, so maybe it doesn't work.
Well, it does have knight blocks, but you can take it here.
Because the queen hits it. Yeah.
And
So
if you
like
take, then you get pins. And the only two moves are queen f5 and rook e3 to continue. So let's say rook e3. And here the only move for black actually is f6,
makes sense.
which solidifies. And let's see something moves, and then you
Then
have
we go
knight
rook takes pawn.
f7.
Oh wait, why do we not have rook takes d4 here? What am I missing? And knight check to fork.
King f1, take the queen, rook takes d8, and rook a1.
We lose our queen back.
Oh,
nice.
what a variation.
Okay. Engines,
We have here,
computers.
and nothing can stop this.
Yeah,
Nothing.
and I was thinking knight f5 here, but then I think
Oh, there's another only move
bishop
here.
g3 and the queen is still trapped.
Bishop g3 only move.
And if knight takes, pawn takes, you're being mated.
Yeah,
there's
and there's no checks. There's no checks, and there's no way to defend the mate. Whoa.
Okay, I completely missed this line.
Well, it's a very, 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 very difficult line, actually. Very, very, very difficult. This is crazy, actually.
Yeah.
f6 and but yeah, I guess not f7. This is just fine. But yeah, I mean, queen rook takes d4 looks like it might win actually, but it doesn't. Wow.
No, I might have played this in a tournament, although I would have given it more thought. Maybe I wouldn't have, just because
that is hard.
It's hard.
I would have probably stopped calculation after winning the queen.
Yeah, that's my thought as well. That's wow. I mean, that shows you just how strong engines are. But instead
the thing is, e4 never happened though. Unfortunately, e4 never happened.
Yeah.
So we have castles. Oh no. Okay, we have. I mean, this game actually both players are objectively, from the computer's perspective, they're making a lot of inaccuracies and mistakes, which is very crazy. But I know I would do the same. So
yeah, we're not accusing them of being poor players.
This is very complicated stuff.
Yeah, this is the type of position where you're going to be trading blunders according to the computer, but none of these moves are blunders. They're all very reasonable moves. It's just there's so much tactical nuance, it's impossible to find every best play. Yeah, so in this case, this does look like a free pawn. I don't
understand why not just take it. You're trading rooks, you're winning that pawn, and everything will be more open. Maybe he was scared of this. I'll be scared of this. It looks like you're just completely stuck, but you have queen takes, and then you have knight takes.
Yeah.
And then, ooh, actually,
slide your king over.
You need queen to b7 because the knight's hanging here, so you need to
Yeah.
play queen to d7.
Yeah, and then
And
just take the knight, and it's good
oh,
for you.
not even taking bishop f6 first is the only move, which is
Okay,
again very crazy.
okay,
Very hard to see all
that
of this
makes
in the
sense, but
game.
it's just, yeah. Yeah, okay. So
And
maybe I mean I looked at it and I saw free pawn, but I didn't calculate any of these complications.
yeah, this is very difficult. I mean, that's probably what I would be scared of as black if you were going to take that pawn. And yeah, this is very difficult still. Queen f5, queen d7. Now queen takes. Okay, I mean, yeah, I guess there's nothing, but it's still very tricky. It's very difficult if you're playing black. I can understand that. So he plays rook here, and apparently rook e3 would have been the best move here, but we have this. And now knight takes would have been the best move, which
Yeah, I'm
is...
surprised we didn't see knight takes here. That seems most natural.
So I guess knight takes bishop f4. And here you have to play the only move, bishop d8, to keep an equal position, which it might be findable. I think it might be findable, actually. But what's wrong with takes? So,
That didn't happen. I promise. That
okay.
did not happen.
Yeah, I was like, so what did happen? It looks like they traded rooks. So trading rooks, okay, it looks like, yeah, this is there's a bit of a lag with the board. So we'll probably stop here, but it looks like rook takes, and however you take bishop c3, and I guess this pawn is more of a weakness. Oh wait, but you still have to find f4 here to play knight e5 because
I think
there's an
that's very
n.
findable though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, because you need that. You need a square for the knight. Like all the squares are covered, and you don't want to go to b2. So you need so f4 gives you e5. So it's definitely possible, but it's still very tricky. So okay, so we'll come back to that
It
and
looks like
see what
some
happens.
moves are played on the master board that we can check out.
Yes, I'm
And
very
actually
curious.
quite a
So it
few moves.
looks like there are like two moves played. So after queen d2, we have bishop to f8. So definitely not queen c8, which is the computer move. I really
Yeah,
wouldn't expect anybody to play that. So bishop f8, pretty typical in the Benoni structure.
yeah,
Now let's see. Yes, here we go. So computer saying a4, screaming a4 actually, or b3 or something like that. But we have b4. So this was the whole plan. So it's very hard to shy away from it, as he said. Even if I probably wouldn't unless I really studied these structures. But
exactly.
b4 and now b6, and black is slightly closer to equality, slightly closer.
Yeah. B6
Because
seems like, the only real move to keep any equality here. And then we see a kind of mysterious move by Nubair. Rook to b2. I think the idea is to double and try and open it up.
yeah, that definitely looks like the idea is to double and then possibly take and then infiltrate, take on c5 and then infiltrate. That's
Yeah.
definitely the idea. However, it's so sad. It gives up all the advantage, but once again, you still have to. If you're the computer, if you're not the computer, you might make some mistakes. So what's the only move here? Black needs to play knight to e5. Looks like
95 is
trading
hard to play.
pieces.
That's a very hard move to play.
I mean, I know it is very common in this opening to play knight e5 and trade pieces. So it
Knight
should be
takes.
fine. Oh wait. Actually, we have a move on the board, and that's not what's played. But knight e5 takes,
Yeah,
and just
you're gonna
everything's
argue.
solid. Bishop d6 may be coming.
Yeah, bishop d6 I think is maybe the
b5 is the possibility now. Yeah, it's very tricky. And if you don't take it, then all your pieces are hanging. For example, bishop b2. Now there's c takes b4, and the c4 pawn hangs. And now a5, and then the c4 pawn hangs. Knight b5, queen c5. It's very bad. So I guess the knight on e5 is a monster.
yeah.
Looking at c4. help supporting b5, supporting takes, and hitting c4. So that's unfortunately not what happens. So yeah, so okay, so rook e c8.
I think the plan is that once we take with the pawn, we're taking with the queen, and then we already have the rook on the file, which makes sense, but Engine does not approve. That being said, this is a very human plan, and this is maybe even something I would have gone for.
Yeah, it's a very like it's very hard to distinguish between all these moves, because also another point might be that remember how that knight on c3 was hanging in all those previous variations, and the queen on d2 is now defending it. Well, maybe with that rook on c8, now the knight is going to be a problem. So for example, let's say king h1, just a waiting move, black can play b5, and after c takes, then their c takes b4. It's exactly the same moves that we looked at previously, and this knight on c3 is a problem. So I think that's the plan for black. If black can play b5 right now, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I suspect the only real chance for white to keep any advantage is b takes c5, and that's the move I'm almost certain is going to be played, because this seems concretely to make rook to c8 look a little funny, because now you have to deal with this e pawn weakness.
Yeah, b takes c5 is the only real good move. The other one being rook c1, defending this knight, but would I ever play that? Probably not.
Yeah.
It looks very weird. Like, your plan's to double up, so
yeah.
b takes c5, definitely. I'm expecting this. It's pretty much the only move. And yeah, so if b takes, then you can freely develop your rooks. And now this rook on c8 is just not that good. You have to go to d8.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens after that. But maybe he will take with a queen, which is also a good move. And here it's way more tricky for white, actually. Like, it is super tricky. I think black might be threatening, yes, b5, because this knight on c3 is weak. And the only real good move here for white is to play a4, just to stop b5. And that's, I mean, it's very findable, because if you find the threat of b5, you see that a4 stops it. I think you can definitely find that. And now, actually, I don't even know what black is doing. Everything's clamped. There's no breaks. 95 is probably not too good. I mean, just lose the pawn. You can play rook a b8.
Yeah, white looks like they're in the driver's seats. This is uncomfortable.
Yeah, this I think is very findable. So b takes c5, queen takes an a4. I think it's very findable, because it's just the threats. You just have to look at the threats and how to stop them. Okay. Now, did I have another question? Yeah, it's that 95. Man, I wonder about that 95. It seems like it's always the move.
It seems thematic, but it's I still think it's very hard to play here.
So what's the main issue, or if you've encountered this type of thing, what do you usually do? Is there like some sort of plan against this knight? Because if you take it,
I usually see rook to e1 and it gets uncomfortable, something like this. But in this position, clearly, concretely, it's okay. And it might be because the rook is on b2 in this position that it's not as scary.
Yeah, but let's see a little bit more in detail. So why? Because white has this passed pawn. So what happens if, let's say, takes?
Probably d5 here or a5 on the 2.
Yeah, a5 is the correct move, because if b5, there's c5, and now there's two
scary. So a5.
Two passed pawns. But after a5, now this pawn is very weak on b4. So what do you do? If you play b5, now look at this. You got beautiful blockade. And well, if you take, then either rook takes or b takes.
Probably b takes to get this passed pawn, and it's looking scary.
Yeah, and the point is you still have a good blockade, and this e5 pawn is pretty well defended so far. Yeah, that was a big miss, actually. Like, it was a big miss. That 95, that would have been very good.
Remember the rook c1 move? Yeah, he finds it.
Oh,
This-
okay.
this
So,
is-
so he
I mean,
found the wait, but I'm actually surprised he didn't find the B takes. I mean, I guess he just doesn't want to play A4 in the end.
yeah,
Or
and I mean, there's the principle, you know, keep attention, and your opponent is bound to slip up at some point. So maybe that's the theory, because I think white, they feel they're better, and they are better, but yeah, I'm not sure, because now 95 maybe works again. 95, yeah, 95 maybe works again.
yes, it is one of the moves. There's a lot of options actually, and all the aggressive options seem to work. So let's see. Actually, the one I'm
B5.
really interested in right now is B5. What is up
Yeah,
with B5? So why can you play this now when this knight's defended? So let's see. You take, and now
because
you have black.
yep.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, you can do this because the rook on C1 is not defended, so the knight can never actually capture. So once you take, and then you take and take, uh, you can't go bishop takes once. Yeah, you go B takes. Yep, C takes B.
Yep, you need to open up the queen first.
And then I think rook takes is almost forced, because if you go pawn takes here, then you can just go like bishop takes or pawn takes. I'm not sure which one is better. I would assume bishop takes, just because you want to trade pieces when you don't have space.
Yeah,
And then,
this is
yeah, if we
definitely
see takes
equal.
takes, we can't see knight takes because the rook hangs at the end of the line. So yeah, for the viewers, and now white is completely lost.
Yeah, so that's very good. So B5 does work. So in this case also the computer says maybe knight E2 or A2 just to protect that rook.
Right.
And
Queen back.
and then you can try B takes A6.
And,
And you kind of exchanging all the pawns. It's still quite equal-ish though.
yeah.
Even though, I mean, it's very difficult actually. This is a very difficult one for black though, because you're probably gonna lose this pawn, and then you have a protected pass pawn here, or kind of like protected by the bishop.
Yeah, but you go 95 here to hit the bishop, and then it's protected tactically. Right?
Okay, yeah. So I guess yes. So if you take here, then knight
Now
takes
take.
d3. Okay, it's you need a counterplay, but you need
I don't
to
expect
act
B5
fast
without
black.
some rook to B8 though, because B5 seems premature without rook B8 in the previous position. So I would expect either rook to B8 or yeah, maybe 95 on those two.
Yeah, so we have a move. Rook A B8 was played.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I expected.
Before I want to look at that, I want to see what's up with knight E5. Why is this move good again? So you take, and I guess it's kind of a little bit of the same. The structure is solid enough for black. So I guess that's the good thing. Queen E3, bishop D6, and yeah, I guess this is still a solid structure. It seems, but again, I guess if black thought about this and didn't like it and didn't like this variation, he's probably not going to go into it now. So, because he had the chance before, so he plays rook A B8. Now, I think the threat is yes, obviously B5. He's going to play B5, but white has another chance to take on C5 and play A4. Or even B5. So actually, whatever white does is probably going to be correct here. If he takes on C5, it's good. If he plays B5, it's good.
B5 seems like a hard move to play though, because after A5, you've just moved your rooks, and you know, unless there's some concrete shot, it feels like you're maybe conceding that your queen side plan is wrong. Now the engine looks to really not like this.
That is very surprising. A5, just closing it is so devastating. I guess actually, yeah, taking it makes more sense because if knight takes, you get to trade.
That's true.
Trade some stuff, and if pawn takes, then you get
you're very happy.
A better pawn structure. I mean, just trading some stuff, it's probably going to be better. It's kind of. Oh, actually, wait. Actually, taking and getting the A file in the end at some point might actually be better than closing it all together. But why is closing it +2 here? Let's take a look at the variation. We have bishop takes knight.
H
I mean, it is your bad bishop, so can make sense. Here we have knight to g5 with the threat of queen to f4, and I'm guessing queen to f4 to h4, and then all you have to do is get rid of the knight on f6, and you're going to
Yeah,
be checkmating.
I mean,
And that was very difficult to stop.
this
Wow.
is scary, but the fact that this is for those though you who cannot see, it's +2 for white, meaning that, you know, black is probably going to have to sacrifice like a full piece to stop this attack from coming, which is, I mean, just looking at the position, that seems ludicrous to say +2, but engines are far better in positions like this than we are, so I do believe it.
Yeah, very, very difficult. I mean, just defending that h7 square is completely horrible. So I guess if you play f takes and knight g5 now, the e6 square is hard to deal with.
Yeah.
So everything's collapsing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So he played rook a b8. So b5 is one move, which can lead into that variation, which again, for me, I don't even know if I would see that idea ever, but I'll look at it in a real game. Very, very deep, but maybe on the verge of possible. Now, the other move is b takes c5.
That
So
seems
what's up with this move?
BC, because now that you have your rook there, you want to open the file. And then if you double up, I think we can just trade. I would trade at least. Maybe, well, if we trade, maybe he has queen takes, and maybe this is not.
Yeah, he'll play queen takes, and you can get back on the file.
Yeah, so maybe this is not so pleasant. So maybe I just keep the tension, because I was thinking we could trade everything. Maybe just go rook e8 and grab the other file then. And then, like,
Yep,
basically you're trying to
that.
entice them to trade. And then
Exactly.
I don't
But
even
it's
know what to do here.
still, it's very, very like on the edge. Nobody wants really to trade or do anything, but yeah, it's quite difficult to see what white is gonna do because you can't quite infiltrate, and it's very hard to maneuver somewhere to infiltrate because everything's quite well covered by black. So this might be, yeah, pretty tough if he plays b takes, and black can hold on a little bit. I think eventually, though, somehow white will nibble away, but it will take a while. So now
It's
b
also an
takes.
interesting play.
Yeah. So what about queen takes? So with b takes, you can maybe get a solid position and kind of try to hold on. But with queen takes, yeah. So with queen takes, I think this puts more pressure on white because white needs basically to play a4 to stop b5 now, right? Yeah. So b5 is a big threat right now. This destabilizing your entire pawn chain. So white needs to play a4, which is probably what he was avoiding this whole game because he went for b4. But yeah, that is the other plan that white has. And I feel like actually, yeah, it's hard to say. Am I happier for black that I got this activity, or am I happier for white that I have pressure? I can't tell. But okay. There's no other good possibilities that I'm seeing here. I'm really wondering what Nubair is gonna do. I'm
Yeah,
guessing b takes c5.
B takes C just does not seem like it's in the spirit of how he's been playing. So I would be a little surprised, even though I know it's the top engine move. Like if I'm in white shoes, this is not a move that I'm going for. I might maybe even B5 here, yeah. B5 is maybe more what I'd play.
Yeah, now definitely you need to do something for sure very quickly because black is gonna play b5 next move. And the only way to stop it is to trade this pawn or push it. You have to do something. So basically, the two variations, they lead into different structures and different ideas. So I guess this is a pretty critical moment for white. So he'll decide, he'll look at all those variations like we did, and he'll probably decide which one's more comfortable for him, which one does he think he has better chances to win in. And so we might see a little bit of a think. Let's see, he has already been thinking for about 7 minutes and a bit. So it makes sense that this would be a critical moment here. Let's see, maybe we can, oh wait, I think on the other board. The other board's a bit glitched, I
Yeah,
think.
but it looks like Titus did end up winning. I think we just lost the broadcast move sequence. Because I can guarantee you the game did not end like this. Ryan is far too strong to just blunder a full piece with some random moves like that, especially
Rook
since
F7. Yeah, there's no way. So we're not going to know what happened there. I wonder just very quickly, is this game lagged? Looks like the other game we have, John Blomer,
yeah, we can
is
take
a little bit lagged. Hello?
Yep.
Okay, so let's just see what happened in this game just very very quickly. We have b4 as a surprise move.
Interesting. Yeah, John likes playing some of these weird plays just to try and get their opponent to maybe make some mistakes. But this
I
seems like,
mean, looks like they did. Looks like there was a bit of a mistake here. Actually, oh wait, actually e5 is technically not a mistake, but because the problem is white will play e5 and then you're done. So I guess you just got a way better structure in the beginning.
yeah. I'm not familiar with Scott. Do we know what his rating is? Because maybe John is facing someone where he has high contempt. Because John plays with high contempt against low rated players. Like if he's facing, for example, a 2100, he'll play normal-ish chess for the most part. I mean, sometimes he goes wild because it's fun. But if he's facing like an 1800, he makes some pretty questionable decisions that he knows he can get away with.
Okay, I did look up the black player and his rating is 1200.
Okay,
so
yeah,
it makes
John
sense.
is probably just pushing pieces around trying to have fun. Because
yes,
there's no way that b4 would be played. I mean, b4, just
not a bad
95
move.
even pawn. 95 is
Actually, yeah, 95.
95
definitely.
when you win a pawn, right? So I mean, this can't be played. And yeah, if you push,
Yep.
you just take.
Yep, it is a mistake. But yes, black is 1200, and the mistake here was the move c5, just a structural mistake. You lost some of the potential to disrupt white structure, and you have way less mobility, so everything went wrong. This is a pawn win. The knight gets to the active square. Did this have to happen? It's okay.
Yeah, and at this point, I think the game is practically over.
Okay, let's go back to our main game. So looks like 4 more minutes passed and white is still thinking. So I'm really interested to see what he'll do. You say he will play b5. I say b takes c5. I feel like b takes c5 is more like disruptive and like it's a little more unclear, but I guess b5 is just it's also like a clear positional advantage in the long term.
Yeah.
Man, it's so difficult.
And you can absolutely play for dynamics with the capture here, but I don't know why Nubair would do that when he knows he can just get a slightly better position and just play forever. Because yeah, b5 looks miserable for black to play.
Yeah, if white plays b5, that's just completely very good. Now I wonder somehow if white is like has some sort of idea like I want to double up the rooks before taking or something like that. I wonder if he'll find some weird different move like rook at bc2. I wonder if he'll play something weird like that. That's also a possibility.
This move seems to make sense. It's preparing maybe some c push in the future. Although I don't think white is ever really going to seriously try and play c5 because this bishop on f8 will come to life if that happens at some point.
Yeah, and the problem with this, if you double up the rooks this way, black literally is not going to do anything over here, and you're just going to be sitting with the rooks behind it. solid pawn. So yeah, I can't see him play this either. And so I guess it's between b takes and b5, and we'll just have to wait a little bit and see what he does. He has been thinking for like 13 minutes so far.
And this is
And
a
he's
critical
down.
decision here. What he does will affect the entire plan for the rest of the game. This is not like this is not a time where you get to just maneuver and say, what are you going to do? It's if you don't make the right choice now, black will either be better or you're going to be better. And that's really, it's critical. So thinking here is definitely the right choice.
Yeah, and he's probably deciding what he's more comfortable playing too, because technically they're all good variations, but
yeah,
what
but it's
would I
hard.
choose? Now, let's see, after this, if we play a4, what is black gonna do? Let's see. So if I play a little bit against the computer, what would black do? So if he goes back. I mean, it's already very unclear what I should do here. If I double up, you probably play b5, maybe. I don't know what happens if I double up. Knight to e5. I'm still better. I'm guessing we have to take here. And then what? Knight e4? Knight e4 takes. We're dropping a4. I mean, very complicated. I mean, if I'm down on time and playing a position like this, I don't even know what I'll do here.
Yeah, I mean, you have to feel like white has some pull, just because all of white's pieces seem to be on very good squares, but I can't tell you what to play here.
Yeah, it's
In this
very difficult. I
position,
mean, I want to play knight e4, but I'm going to drop the a4 pawn eventually, or actually, I'm going to drop the c4 pawn too. So
yeah,
nothing's too good here. Maybe f3. What happens if I just play something like f3? He's
f3
probably
seems
going
to
to play
help you.
bishop c5.
Yeah, exactly. It
Bishop
seems to help you
c5.
develop your dark squared bishop.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what the right
Maybe
plan
some
here
rook
is.
to e1 here. You just swing your rooks over and try and target the other pawn.
Yeah, let's see how that works. Rook e1. Okay, rook e8, and we lost a little bit of the threat. Looks like the best move was g4, which if I was ever gonna find that one in a real game. And yeah, the more I look at this, the harder it gets to play and try to get an advantage. But then again, black has to play this knight e5, which I mean, at some point, I'm sure he'd find his way to knight e5.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty tough. So let's look at b5 now. So b5, how easy would this be to play? Now, obviously, we have to look at knight takes. We have to look at pawn takes. Now, let's see. If I play knight takes, he'll take. If I take with the rook, knight e5. Now, do I even want to take that knight?
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't take. Well, okay, maybe it gives some play, but I do like this pass pawn, or the prospect of the pass pawn. That being said, the position is maybe a little more closed, so leaving black with a knight is maybe not so good. So maybe we try like bishop e2 instead.
Yeah, because right now, if I take the knight, he's gonna take back and then play bishop d6. It just feels like I don't have that much. But it seems
No,
like that was a good move. If bishop e2, bishop e2 is a slight mistake actually. Yeah, I guess your pawn's being locked here is not that great, huh? Wow. Rook there. And yeah, I guess black has enough activity here.
yeah.
Bishop h6. Ooh.
It can do one takes here, and then he gets the rook file, and yeah, this is nasty. Now, of course, the players are not going to be playing, engine accurate like this, but this show that it can get tricky. So yeah, takes, and probably rook e1. and this is maybe how you try and play.
Yeah. Okay, he's gonna defend. Now, what about something like Queen B2? We're putting a lot of pressure. Obviously, he's gonna be able to defend. He's gonna play 97 maybe. And maybe A4, A5 is one way to try to disrupt
Yeah,
something.
we can try to get rid of our weakness like that. That probably makes some good sense. And then, but if we go A4, he's going to bring his rook over, and maybe we lose our pawn.
Yeah, that's always the problem. Are we weakening or are we attacking? Yeah, now I'm assuming E4 might be a move next year for black even. Otherwise, knight D7. Still very tough. Maybe let's see if we activate the bishop G3 to H4, but that doesn't do too much either. What if we attack this pawn on B6? There's knight D7.
So
I mean,
we can try that and then go like bishop F5. Now we have to trade bishops.
okay. So it looks like E4 is a good move here.
And
And yeah, okay. Oh wait. So
no,
yes.
because we hang the bishop, so bishop E2 is forced, or maybe bishop F1, but bishop E2 seems slightly better. And then
Okay, so
wow.
in this case, black is gonna get a lot of activity. Wait a second. So we cannot take this.
No, because then we lose to this knight in, and we're being mated. You can't take here. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just don't have enough time here. So yeah, that 95 is gonna be a good move, huh?
Interestingly, Nubair chooses neither of those pawn moves. He actually chose a completely different
No
option.
way.
Knight C4, which
Knight E4.
seems okay.
It's
but
still
I'm
fine.
a little surprised by this choice. I feel like this gives some options that I would not have given. So after takes, does some B5 work then? No, it doesn't quite work because then you go C takes and we can't take back. So okay, maybe
Wait a second. Wait,
trying to create some open lines against the queen, because beforehand the knight was blocking the rook's vision of the queen if the pawns were to trade, but now that's not the case. So maybe he's just trying to open it so that b5 never works for black. And this is probably a good practical choice, limiting all the options for black. Although in this position, I don't really see any choice other than either, like, I guess you could go queen to d8, though this seems really passive, so I doubt it. But I think you almost have to take, because
yeah,
you can't
definitely
let white take your knight. That's just destroying your pawns and asking to lose the game.
Yeah, you're definitely taking. That one's pretty obvious. You're cramped on space. Yeah, he takes it. Looks like he spent about a minute and a bit to take.
Nubair only is one.
So I guess, okay, so here's the thing. So he's gonna take. So okay, so that happened. So takes. So the thing is, b5 now is not a good move though. So that did stop b5 because now after takes, well, you cannot take on b4 because your queen's hanging, like you've been saying. And well, what are you gonna do? If here there's b takes and now the bishop pin comes into play,
so
that's good.
e5 would be a disaster, so we're not going to see that. What I would expect is something like rook to e8 now, since it's clear that Nubair is not going to be opening up the queen side. Rook back to e8 seems like it makes some good sense. It's just a free tempo on the queen. Sorry, on the bishop. And then I'd expect something like queen to c2 in that position, and it's a game.
Yeah, it's definitely a game here. Still difficult. Like none of those lines seem like it was a very clear and easy advantage to move forward with as whites. So nothing's gonna be easy.
Yeah, and one thing in this position, Nubair is down some time, but I think Sammy is going to quickly find himself behind on the clock because these moves are all not so like critical for white. Like if white makes a not optimal move, they're still going to have, some pull. But if black makes a single slip up, that's just, he loses. So I do have a feeling that white is maybe going to be creating some pressure and we may see some time trouble in the future, considering this is the middle game and they're both a little over. So Sammy is a little over half of his time down, and Nubair is down to 30 minutes, but his position seems pretty fluid.
Yeah, so now I guess my question is, what is Black gonna do in the next couple of moves? So let's say I play a little bit against the computer just to see what the development for Black is. I'm guessing like could be 95. I did see F5 in the evaluation at some point, but let's see. So if I move the bishop back, yes, we have 95 again. Simple move, trading pieces and getting possibly a better structure with a pawn on e5. Now, I mean, we basically have to take it. And I mean, I'll be surprised if we don't see this sort of structure soon.
Yeah.
So you were saying queen c2. If queen
yeah, something like queen c2 seems to make sense.
Okay.
And then
So,
maybe
okay.
rook b3 maybe?
So if rook b3, there's going to be bishop a4.
Yeah. Bishop a4. So
But I feel like Black is preparing to actually take somehow. Like he's piling up on the c5. He's probably going to take. So if, let's say I move the king. Oh, he's going to play b5 right now. Okay. So this is the point. Okay. The point is that you can take with the queen here.
Yeah.
On c5. So I guess queen c2 kind of interferes with our rook in some way. What about queen d3?
Yeah, maybe queen d3 is more principled.
Okay, but now b5 again, and now rook is. Oh wait, what? Wait.
No. If you go b4, we go c takes first.
Wait. What? If I move the king, I mean, he's gonna play bishop takes here, or c4, huh?
Oh wow, yeah. Okay, I see.
Okay, so I guess that's an interesting idea with rook c8, really piling up on that file and threatening to capture pawns in b5. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. So if rook e8. Wait a second.
Rook e8 is I think the move that's going to be played. Though another move that we could definitely see is bishop to e7 instead, and just try and put your bishop on this long diagonal instead of rook here.
No. Yeah, I'll look at that in 1 second, but I have a few more questions. Okay, let's say I move the bishop somewhere far. Okay, and then bishop e7. And then f to f6, and then the e5 square is going to be very annoying to deal with. So what is white even going to do here? Rook b3?
Instead, we actually see neither of those. We see for me, a fairly cryptic move. And I'm not saying this is a bad move. I'm just saying Black is really not trying to show their hand. They're not showing white at all what they're going to be doing on this queen side. I think their plan is to put their queen on f6 because this is a far more active square than where they're sitting at now. And actually, I really do like this plan because one thing to note is that Black's queen is not playing at all when they're sitting on the current c7 square due to all the pawns and the bishop in the way. But once we get to the f6 square, she's a lot more scope on the entire board. And she can still play on the queen side due to her nice long diagonal. So I do like this plan. And I'd actually maybe say if white doesn't do something concretely very quickly, this is going to be zeros within like the next 2 or 3 moves. Even if the engine says otherwise, I don't see anything for any advantage.
Yeah, definitely the engine. It was the third choice for the engine on my computer, and the more it thinks, the more it's trying to converge on plus 0.5. So it's definitely a good move. I feel like one of the ideas behind it was to play b5. I haven't looked at this yet, but I wonder if b5 might become actually just a good move now because the queen's not being hit. Because in the other line, b5, c takes, the queen is always hit by that rook. But in this case, you just step away, and then let's see. Okay, so the threat is queen f6, but can you play b5 still? C takes,
The
rook
thing about
takes.
e5 though is I don't think there's ever any reason that you want to play it in this position by
Yeah,
because
only if you get good pawns.
your pieces are moving towards the king side, whereas white's pieces are, you know, a little bit stuck because the queen's in the way and everything. So queen f6, rook e8, and all of a sudden you're starting to swing your pieces onto an active side of the board, whereas you know white feels like they're just a little more out of it.
Yeah, b5. It just you just can't get a good solid pawn structure for black. There's not enough time. Because well, c takes, rook takes, and something like rook b c2,
Yeah,
and
if you trade, it's probably not so great.
yeah, black is not going to be able to get a good solid structure. So b5 is not quite a good break right now, but queen f6 is going to be the next move.
Yeah, and how do I don't even know if there's a way to stop this. Maybe you go something like rook e8, bishop d3, or bishop d3, rook e8, maybe more accurate, just because it stops any plans in the future.
You're saying bishop d3 and what?
So queen f6, rook e8, something like this. Just maybe it's not tactically working, but my point is you're trying to shift to the queen side. Oh yeah. White's knight is hanging here if you allow bishop h3. So
yes,
maybe it's not working. So
bishop
maybe we go
is a threat here.
e3 then.
But the thing is, after queen f6, so after bishop d3, it's actually quite hard for black to make a good move. The best move here, it says rook to a8, which makes no sense right now, at least until you probably analyze for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But queen f6, it says white can take on c5, which is that move that just was never being played. And now rook takes c5, only move really, yes. And now rook cb1, and you're threatening this, so he has to push.
e5.
And now the only move that gives white a tiny bit of advantage is a4.
Oh boy, if this happens, I mean, I would say hats off to Nubair. That's that seems.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I really doubt this. So queen f6 still seems good. It's very tricky for white to actually make that sort of progress or like see all that. It's very difficult. But then what would be white's plan? Like what would you try to do to break open the position? If I could give my knight to e4, that seems pretty good. So let's say, okay, so bishop d3, let's say queen f6, we'll play knight g5 to go to e4.
Oh, this is interesting.
I don't know if you're looking at the eval, but there's only one good move from black here.
I'm not. Let me think about this.
And that is a decent plan actually for white, but
I'm trying to think what I would play. So my candidate moves are rook e8, bishop f5, maybe knight to e5. So that looks soft. Bishop f5 seems principled, but so does rook e8. Knight e5, I think tactically is just too dubious, but it's a computer, so it very well just could be knight e5. But honestly, I would either. I would probably go bishop f5.
yeah, that is correct. So the
knight e5.
Yeah, the problem is that knight e4. If white plays knight to e4, this is going to be a very big problem. So for example, if h6, knight e4, it's already +3. Let's see, queen d6, then you're blocking your bishop, so you can take it. So I guess yeah, knight e4 already starts to like actually just win the pawn. So even after rook e8, knight e4,
then we need
there's no way to defend that pawn. So in that case, you need to play bishop f5 to just stop knight e4.
So what was the tactical line after knight to e5? Because that was the other move I was looking at.
Well,
Bishop h7. Ha.
take on each other.
Silly, silly, silly.
Okay, so that one was a bit more obvious there.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're just saying the pawn. Yeah, so knight g5 is a good try. But
Yeah,
bishop
but bishop
f5.
f5 seems pretty straightforward. I wouldn't expect, if we got this position, Samrug, I think, would play bishop f5 pretty quickly. It was one of the only reasonable plays.
For sure. Well, there's g4 here.
Queen d7.
Queen d7, and you're going to be solid. Yeah, solid enough. So, what other tries would I think about for white? Because looks like Nubair has been thinking for like 7 minutes plus.
Yeah, 7 minutes and counting.
Because he's probably trying to figure out the plan here. Like, how is he gonna even try to push for an attack, right? And it's getting harder and harder.
And the thing is, Nubair, I think he knew he was better, and he hasn't done anything wrong per se. So I think he's still assuming that he's got some pull, but maybe he's not seeing it anymore. And it's largely because there is not so much pull. And he decides to capture. Here we go. Here we go.
Okay, so this is what we have looked at.
Yeah.
We've looked at this line, but it's not even such a big advantage at this point, though.
No. Both pawn takes and rook takes seem pretty good to me. If I'm black and I'm trying to win, I'll go rook takes. But I mean, pawn takes, if I'm feeling drash, especially after such a long game, pawn takes, I feel like is symmetrical pawns, gives you some decent chances.
I mean, actually, I would be more scared. I would be very scared if I took with the pawn, because it seems like you're cutting off all your play, and white is just going to be trying to infiltrate this whole game with rook b1, and it's a little bit. It feels harder to play even somehow. It feels like rook takes c5 is a little bit easier to play because you're playing from b5. You have something to play for.
That's true, but we do see pawn, which is kind of what I expected.
Oh, okay. I'm actually quite surprised. I'm actually quite surprised.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's just trying to go for a symmetrical, little bit more drawish line, and Nubair blesses out rook cb1, which is the move that we were saying. But now I expect rook takes, and then maybe knight h4, try and trade knights, or knight h4 to trade knights. It's most principled at least, or maybe like bishop e7 or something.
So white right now. The threat, so white's next moves are probably going to be either bishop d3 or bishop g3, it seems. Bishop g3 looks like it stops knight h4. Okay, so we're having some quick moves. So that was not one of the top moves.
I mean, the computer.
Yeah, it does make sense. Stops possible rook b7s, which I was surprised that rook b7 wasn't a move here. I mean, I guess you can always just trade and go rook b8, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. But so I guess it might stop sort of rook b7 ideas.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, if I was to predict what would happen from this position, I'm going to say white is definitely going to push. But I really don't see a plan for white to actually
push for a win.
Yeah, push for a win. I don't mean like push upon like g5, though it may be playable. That seems ridiculous to me. I'd expect something like bishop d3 here, or bishop to g3, like the engine was pointing out earlier. And I'll be honest, bishop g3 is the only move that I would have maybe played here. Just give look for the king, because I don't see a plan for white. I'm lost on what move to do to make any improvements. But maybe bishop b3 has some merits. Maybe I go bishop g3. I think is my play. That, or if I'm going crazy, if I'm facing like a, I don't know, 1900 or something, who I feel like I need to beat, maybe I try g4. But otherwise,
yeah, for me, I mean, I'll be starting to lose hope as white for some sort of progress. I mean, the engine does agree. You do have stuff to play for, but it's just so hard to see
Yeah.
the correct ideas. I mean, yeah, Bishop G3.
We'll see how much
Definitely move.
contempt. G4 is maybe what I would play if I had some contempt, and meaning I feel like I have to win. But it
Definitely move.
does seem long term a little risky. So I don't know if Nubair is going to go for that, because if it doesn't pan out, then your end games are always going to be a little bit shakier, and especially the I don't know how to say the meta in chess recently, like how all the top players are playing is a lot of king safety, because that's how Carlsen plays. He doesn't like exposing his king to weakness. So whenever you're studying or doing courses or anything, a lot of the top grandmasters are recommending keep your king safe. So G4 just is a little bit against this idea. That being said, yeah, he's facing an opponent who I don't think he's ever going to play G4 against, just because it's a little bit too much to give, in my opinion. But we'll see. Like I said, G4 is if you're facing someone low rated.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a bad move. And actually, now that my computer's been thinking for a little bit, that's 28. It says G4 is the best move.
You win this time. Woo!
But yeah, I mean, what's gonna be the moves after that? Because G4, you're not gonna play G5. You're probably not gonna play H4. So you're gonna have to. You're still gonna have to think about the plan. Now, I kind of wonder, what would the computer do? So obviously
G4, yeah.
obviously G4, but what am I gonna do actually? Rook E8? What I think I was saying that. Okay, then Bishop D3. And then I mean I don't see any moves. I mean there's Bishop to E7 and to F6 is one idea. But then you're actually
inviting some pawn storm then. I actually still do like this plan, but that runs into Bishop G3, I think. It wants to trade first.
Okay.
Okay, no, this makes sense. And we also have to go back to F8 here.
Do we? So if we go here in G5, do we not have any squares?
No, we don't. We're out.
B. What happens after Bishop B2? Let me just see what happens here. Okay, it's actually technically not a bad move. Maybe we're still surviving.
I mean, maybe we're surviving, but I'm not feeling so optimistic.
Oops. Mistake.
What is this? Why? What happens after we take? Let me do the calculation before the computer does it.
Yeah, what is going on?
After takes, we have Bishop takes D6. Wait, takes. Maybe not. Wait, takes. Yeah, no, I think we have Bishop D6. So after H takes, we go Bishop D6, and we're just we're winning.
Yeah. So yeah, that seems like I agree now. Bishop takes D6.
Yeah, this is obviously winning because now our C pawn falls and we have two pass pawns.
Okay, so what's white gonna do to try to push for a win though? Okay, so I guess the D6 pawn is very uncomfortable. If we go something like this.
Well,
at least it's still +1 or so.
Yeah, we haven't blundered away to the computer yet. Maybe F6 is reasonable. But no, F6 we see
H5.
Yeah. Instead, we see
it's
Bishop
probably
G3.
fine.
We see one of the moves that I was saying, Bishop G3, and that's one of the moves the computer was saying too. So clearly a fine move by Nubair instead of going into this complicated. No, we sack the bishop here. We go bishop takes. Yeah, and then
you're gonna eat all the pawns.
Yeah, and then we also eat the H pawn. It's far too much. Ah, nasty. Whoa.
Yeah, there's all sorts of bad things, but okay. So F6 is that bad, huh? So Queen D6 is not good. H6. So he's gonna go queen e7. Maybe we have to move the bishop.
Maybe we just move up like h5 and put our pawns on dark squares just for. No,
H5.
but then queen e7 then. Sorry, a5. Sorry, h5 would be a little crazy, but no, but yeah, queen e7 is a huge threat, so we can't.
Yeah. So yeah, I was saying bishop c8, but even this is bad. What? How's? Oh, we're stuck here.
We have no moves.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it's
We're
too
just
hard
gonna
to
lose
defend
h1.
everything.
Yeah. But instead,
So
we
that's
did
we
not
need
see
the
g4
bishop
in the game,
here.
though. In g4, in the game, they played not g4.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good way to push for an advantage. I mean, it was very, very slow. It's like a very slow, and then it's really not obvious. I don't think a human would play like all those crazy like ideas, and even then, it's still not going to be easy for white.
No,
Not going to be easy. So bishop g3.
which is kind of what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
There was that or bishop d3 or yeah g4 if we're playing with some contempt. But like I said, I didn't think that was very likely because most people are not willing to open up their king. There are principles in chess, and that just feels like it violates them. And you know, these guys, they're facing another strong player. You need to play some principled chess. You're gonna risk losing, and I think they've both shown they're strong enough to find all these defensive resources. There's a good likelihood that, you know, g4, it looks good right now, but if they find a defensive resource, you're just going to be struggling in the endgame with an open king.
I mean, okay. I'm just trying to think about why. So white is gonna play bishop d3. Do you think white's gonna play h4?
h4 is definitely in the cards, though I don't suspect we'll see it right now. And largely, I don't think we'll see it right now because this light squared bishop, the light squared bishop is completely dominated. And this will just give more options. I think before we see that, we'll maybe see like, I don't know, king to h2 might be a small improvement or something like this. I don't know if king h2 is actually that good, now that I say that, but I think before we see any pawn push, we're going to see a lot of just slow moves to improve from both sides. Because okay, so the engine is saying f5 is best. If we see that, I would be stunned. This seems so counter-positional, anti-positional.
Okay, so I guess the idea is not just f5, but you follow it up with knight e5. You need to follow it up with knight e5 and try to get two pawns in the center. And after f3, you know, maybe g6 it looks like, and
This will not be happening on the board. I'm saying
it's
now this will never
difficult.
happen on the board.
I mean, knight e5 has been a move for so long, and it's never happened. So I wonder when or if we're gonna see that. Other
I
than
think
that,
knight on g6 makes Samrug's king just feel a little safer. And I happen to agree. It's very hard to do anything when that is there. And yeah, once you get rid of this knight, g6 is just looking for trouble. Doesn't this blunder a pawn?
which pawn?
1 second here. So if we come d6, bishop d6, yeah, I think just d.
Yeah, I mean d6 is the best move, but it's not obvious because you're gonna play f5. So d6. Why is this such a crazy move?
Well, you can't take.
Yeah, because
So,
I guess. Well, let's see more exactly. You take
now
here.
I take, yeah, and I take you again,
Okay.
and I win your bishop.
Okay.
And if we see bishop takes, I'm just going to go rook to b7 instead of queen takes. If we see bishop takes, rook to b7, and just win your bishop.
You can defend d6.
So you've got to move your queen probably to like.
I mean,
I don't know.
if queen d8, then I mean, yeah, you do lose that pawn, and it's
that's
just horrible. Yeah, that's a cool move, d6, but yeah, that's why knight e5 here is not going to be good, because you can't play f5, which is, I guess, why the computer wants f5 first and then knight e5. And then, you know, the bishop's now looking on that diagonal on h7. Hmm. So okay, but we're probably not going to see F5. So what are
Rook
all
E8,
the other
maybe.
options?
Rook
Rook
E8 or
E8.
bishop E8, bishop E7 on those two.
Yeah, so let's see, bishop E7 going for F6.
Mhm.
And what now? One of the computer suggestions, believe it or not, right now the number 2 is bishop H2.
No, this will not happen.
Okay. Okay, so there's H4, but there's bishop D3. Why is bishop D3 like a tiny bit above all the others?
You just principled opening up the file, getting your bishop on a protected square.
Yeah, yeah, it just steps away from the E4 that's unprotected from that rook.
I mean, just think about it. Like, what square would be the best for this like squared bishop? And almost everyone is gonna say D3, just because it's a little bit more solid. It's protecting the base of your pawn chain. You're keeping your files open. So when there's nothing to do, just put your pieces on better squares. And I think that's the principle the computer's going for here as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and now let's just look at how you actually break through or like try to push for an advantage. You go rook e1,
Bishop back to
and
F.
yeah,
Maybe we don't need bishop F8. Maybe we can go like
yeah, it's tricky because if
rook E8.
bishop,
No, because
maybe
here's leaving such a weakness on D6. Maybe you have to go.
yeah, but it's hard to get to it actually though. I was thinking this and a queen f4.
Yeah,
Computer's okay with it, but it looks like maybe black will get some counterplay with rook b3.
yeah. Wait, queen D6, and you lose your C pawn. Ah, but then we lose our C pawn as well. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I believe. Yeah, rook C3.
Yeah, rook c3. Even
No,
this is
here.
possible.
No, but he's not going to take on C5. That's the thing. That's not
Hmm.
forced. He's going to go rook C1.
Hmm. Yeah, so I guess you just rook c3 first, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Ah, rook C2. Nice.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's one
all.
idea. That's one idea, but yeah, there's so much counterplay. I mean, it's gonna be very tough for white, but how is this? Ah, it's tough for everyone. Rook e1. Okay, queen d8. And now it looks like h4 is the move, which is how do you
That's a
even
crazy
find?
play. I mean, it makes sense. You're just trying to trade your H pawn for the D pawn, but it
Hmm.
seems very hard to play because it feels like maybe H5 here is now playable or something along these lines, and then you have a
Now
permanent
like
weakness.
bishop g4.
Yeah,
Oh,
bishop.
now
Wow, 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 wow.
yeah. So actually, here there is only one move to
Knight
take the
G5.
advantage. Yeah,
Yeah,
knight g5,
it seems straightforward.
going probably going for e4.
And there's a trick.
There's knight h.
H6 looks like a good move, but I think there's a tactical trick here if you go H6, where you can sack the knight. I think
You
I'm
could, but
calculating.
it's not the
So I
best
think knight
apparently.
F7 works, but also knight E6.
Yeah, knight
And we go
e6 is
so knight F7, king F7, takes. Knight E6 or knight F7 are the only two moves that I think would be lights out, and then queen E3.
okay.
The idea is that I'm
So
just
what's
going to
the
take your
threat
knight and
here?
then I
You're
take
gonna
your bishop.
take and then take that. Okay, so if bishop,
Yeah, and then I
I
pawn
know it's
pawn,
not the best move, but if bishop here,
queen E4,
there's queen e4 only move here,
and then I'm forking you. And
and
don't I win a piece? Now I take your bishop on G5.
yeah. So then why is bishop takes h4 okay?
Queen E4 still
Knight f8, king
takes on
takes,
G4.
takes,
Queen G3.
queen takes, and apparently it's actually okay for white, or more okay for black. It's
What is
equal.
the eval?
It's plus 0.5, but the thing is, you took on f7, black took the
Plus
h4 pawn.
plus
Yeah,
0.5. Okay.
so we both just won a pawn and it's back to equal. Everyone
okay.
took a pawn.
Okay, but
So 96 though, it says it's way better.
yeah,
Because
okay, yeah. I
if
mean, you go queen to
queen
d7,
d7,
knight
there's
c5.
knight takes c5. Whoa.
Yeah, and it's a free pawn.
So queen
Um,
c8, and
no,
then
but
you
then you
can
just take.
take on g7 or a lot of other moves, but you can kind of remove
Yeah,
all the defenders.
take, and you win a lot of material.
Okay, so then you have to play f takes, and then you take here.
G6. Then e5 probably
e5.
first.
Ah, it's still not obvious. Still not obvious. You have to play bishop c2 apparently, or h5, but bishop c2 and then queen d3. I mean,
I would go h5.
it's still that's white. h5 here.
Yeah, it looks menacing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
I would go h5
yeah,
here, and
yeah, that's
but
good. Okay, so
that's me.
Okay, actually, wait.
We
So
actually
bishop
use bishop to
e7,
e7. Samrug
bishop
plays
e7.
this move, but obviously this
Yeah,
is off the line.
so we were looking. The line we're looking at here is after bishop d3, um, rook e8, takes, rook e1, bishop f6, h4. We were looking at h4, I think, or no, we are looking at. Oh no, we were looking
H4
at
looks
this.
very like that. H4 is the move we were looking at after some queen to e8, but it seems very hard to play.
Yes, it was after queen d8. I wonder if we're ever gonna get one of those lines we looked at, but in all the lines, nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. The way I mean, if white wins this game, this will be a pretty good example of a way to like a plan to break through the black structure, but it's very tricky. I mean, even now, bishop d3, are we gonna see that, or are we gonna see some sort of other plan?
Bishop d3, I think, is just a solid move, but you could also see something like. So what do you play? I mean, like I said, king h1 or king h2, maybe to improve your king. Maybe we could go for your h4 plane here. I
That's
expect
definitely
something
the
like
move.
bishop d3 or king h2 because these are slow improvement moves. But if Nubair really wants to go for it, I think h4 is the best way to attack. And h4 seems risky though. Like I said, yeah, exactly. You're going to bring your bishop in, and this is a move you play when you have sort of high contempt. And I don't think Nubair has contempt for Samrug in this game.
Yeah, nothing is easy. There is knight h2 here actually. Wait a minute.
Wait, knight h2, bishop h5.
Yeah, you definitely need bishop h5 to stop h5,
Right.
and then you can
No, but I
trade.
want to trade. I want to trade.
Yeah.
This is good, and then I go h5 myself, and now I'm actually feeling pretty good because there's no real way to attack my h5 pawn, and I have queen to d8, and maybe I bring up on your h4 pawn.
Yep. Yep. Very good. So it's not a problem for black.
No.
I mean, yeah, that would discourage me from playing h4. I mean, I can't believe it. Bishop d3 is one of the only moves, and yes, it was
We
played.
see
It
it.
was
Yeah.
played just now. Very
Yeah, it
good.
was going to be bishop d3 or king h2 were my main thoughts because those are the only improving moves that aren't committing, and I don't think white wants to commit until they see something concrete here. So the only real options were these two moves because I mean your bishop on g3 is great, your knight on f3 is great, your rooks want to be on this file, and pushing your pawn to a4. Little committal, and h4 has some play, but I don't see anything concrete, and it's just looking like it's creating maybe a weakness for the end game on my king side, because with my bishop on g3 I can't play pawn to g3, which is normally how you follow up, and you play pawn to h4 just to solidify everything. So I was expecting king h2 or bishop d3.
And now this is the question that I've been having. Like every single move, it's a big question. What do you do? Because every piece Like in my games, this happens a lot too. Every piece is placed on a good square, and you don't like it's hard for you to like actually do something like black. I mean, obviously there's bishop f6 here as a one
I actually
normal
don't
move,
like bishop
but
f6 so much here.
yeah, it's not good. So which is why it's so always so hard to play a move
I
when
mean,
everything's placed so nicely.
rook to d8 or e8 seems to make sense. Rook to d8, the idea is that we're going to move our bishop, and then our rook is going to defend the d6 square. And rook to e8 is just kind of get an open file. I think those are the most principled plays here. Because
Yeah.
everything else seems a little
Yeah, we were looking
wishy-washy.
at rook e8. Rook e8 was what we were looking at for our evaluation. And I guess when I was trying to play a little bit with the engine, but let me see here. I just want to make sure I understand what happens
Bishop
after.
f6, probably going to trade our rooks,
It's
and then
trade, and then
see how
queen,
you.
is it queen a5? I think it's, yeah, it looks like queen a5, and you're attacking a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and my
It's hard to
big
defend
threat is
everything.
I'm just going to go queen takes c5, and that's a free pawn, right? Here, queen c5.
Yeah.
So it's just it feels a little too weakening to me.
Yeah, it's very sad for black that you can't quite play bishop f6 and develop it. I mean, still you can just sit. Computer saying one of the moves is rook f8, just sitting, but I'd probably play rook e8.
Yeah, rook e8 I think is more principled for sure.
And so let's see, what would black do next? If king h2, well, you could just play a random move to wait. f5.
I mean, knight
is
f8 seems
tough.
principled. Just try and defend. If knight on f8, there is no mate, you know.
It's just a lot of shuffling.
Maybe
I mean,
we go for
obviously,
repetition.
yeah. So
I don't think white
f5,
is going to want to get a repetition here, though. I think they're going to play for more.
yeah, they're definitely going to play for more. It's just that black can hold on. Black can just mostly be solid until white tries to do something. But I wonder if black wants to actually do something, what is he going to do? And it looks like f5 might be one thing to do. And actually, now that f5 is mentioned, I might understand the rook f8 idea, because it's probably going to be f5.
Yeah,
f5 is
f5
probably
is.
black's way to do something.
Yeah, I mean this is hard to play though because we play rook f8, and then if we go f5, he's going to trade on the b file, and now our rook is swinging back. So it feels like we're maybe not doing so much. F5, and now now we might see takes, and now it feels like our rook move is maybe. But then again, I don't know how important tempo are in this position because there's really not
Yeah,
a lot going on.
yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about tempos in a close position when most of your pieces are already pretty well placed. I think you can afford to kind of jump around, maneuver a little bit, poke around,
Yeah.
see what happens. But yeah, the king on h2 actually, now that I see king on h2, when you play f5, that bishop is threatening to get trapped in some lines, which is very annoying. So king h2 is just kind of blocking
Yeah,
our own
maybe in
bishop.
this position it's not so good. So maybe a king on h1 is more principled, but I'm really not sure. I'm going to run to the washroom real quick. I will be right back.
Okay. 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 Well, since we're over here, let's see. I want to play a little bit against the computer to understand how this position will um turn out, or what will happen. So actually, yeah, what if I just run a computer game from here myself? And I kind of have the question, is white going to be able to win this game? So let me do that. Okay, bishop d3 to make uh, So let's see. Hopefully I'm not going to be too laggy. But let's see. So I'm going to look at the engine, and I'm going to be making the moves they make. So it looks like rook d8 is, oh, rook f8 takes, rook e1. Okay. Rook e1. The advantage is growing a little bit. Rook e8. h4. h6. Queen c2, knight f8. So basically trading one pair of rooks and then hitting a little bit on the king side, making a couple of threats. We have knight d2. And actually white's advantage is starting to grow here a little bit. Plus 1.3. Queen d8, h5. Bishop h4. Rook takes. Bishop takes. Okay, let me see here. Bishop takes. Bishop f4. Bishop d7. And the knight e4. Now what? Why not bishop takes d6? Ooh, takes and queen f6. So knight e4. Bishop g4. Knight takes d6. Bishop h5. Knight e4. Okay, so welcome back. So what I did is I ran a little bit of an engine game on my computer just to see what would happen, how the game would progress, like if both players are defending very well. And so this is what happened. So we had rook f8, and then we had the trade of rooks, rook e1. We had definitely h4, and then after h6 to be solid, queen c2 attacking the knight, knight f8. So black is still being solid here, but actually after knight d2, the computer was actually like growing and growing in the evaluation. So it looks like white might be able to push for a win here in this structure. So knight d2, queen d8, h5, bishop h4. And I guess this is the point where something happens, because you play bishop h4 and then trade rooks, and then bishop f4, and then this pawn fell basically. And also you can't take it now because of bishop f2 and queen f6.
Right.
So after this, so why not bishop g5? Oh, bishop g5 looks like bishop h2, bishop e7, knight e4, and what is
Yeah, there's some
what does black
attack
do?
mounting somewhere.
Is this like almost subswung actually? Because you cannot move. You can basically not move anything. What about king h8? Queen e2, king g8. Oh, now you can take it.
Very pretty, yeah, because we're winning this critical pawn, and now there's really no move for black. I don't expect something like this to happen. This is a very deep concept.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
and
I don't
instead
expect this.
of
I was
any
just
rook move, you see
wondering.
knight f8 by Samrug, which I actually probably think is one of the best moves. Knight f8 just avoids any of these complications.
Yeah, I was just really wondering what would happen with perfect defense. Is Black going to be able to hold on to this forever? And it looks like no, because this H pawn just cuts off the mobility, and then the D6 pawn just becomes so weak. It's actually pretty crazy. So what if you then play bishop there? Like, what if something like King H8? I just want to see what would happen, and I'm going to go straight back to the game.
Yeah,
Queen
of course.
B1.
It's straight. I'm cutting off squares. Sure.
Okay, and let's say Black keeps waiting.
Queen here.
94.
Bishop.
Says, oh, if Black keeps waiting, now it says, well, there's Queen A1, sure, but Rook E3. And
Oh wow.
yeah, you're starting to get an attack. I mean, Black is just so stuck that you have all the moves to set up an attack. Wow. Wow, okay. So an attack is definitely possible, apparently, because either you infiltrate on the queen side
Yeah, this is
or you
devastating.
get attacked. Whew. Yeah, very, very hard when, yeah, this structure is, I can sort of understand a little bit of this structure now, like how Black can barely do anything. Wait, what about if here I just,
This
okay.
just wonders though. Yeah.
Okay, so we have knight to f8, keeping
Yeah, and
things
I think
more or
this is
less the
probably
same.
practically one of the better plays. And yeah, I know the engine likes white, but I really don't see much happening here. Like what do you even play here? Do you go like Queen C2 or Queen E2 or Rook E1 or something like that? I don't see a ton of play. It's
Now, I
not clear
wonder
to me.
why. What's up with the other idea? Because in the other variation you took, you played Rook E1. I mean, it's still, I think it's still there. You can play H4. You can kind of still get into that sort of binding idea of like H4, H5, and slowly paralyzing Black. That's still possible. It says, okay, so other ideas in this position, Queen E2, Bishop
Bishop
F6,
F6.
takes, 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 and Knight D2 again,
Okay,
going
so
for
similar kind of
D4.
setup, aiming for the central square on E4.
So let's see if okay, so Black infiltrating doesn't, it's probably not going to be fast enough.
It blunders the D pawn, doesn't it?
And it looks like after Queen E3, you're going to lose everything. So Black can't do that. So if Knight G6, well, definitely going
Yeah,
for,
there's no way to
or oh
hold
wait, it's
this
not
long.
even trying to go 95. Maybe Bishop D4 is one of the moves, but in any case, it says we can take it, and then 94. And let's say Bishop D4 defending the
Wow.
C5 pawn. And, well, I guess you lose this one. I guess it's probably going to just be losing.
Instead, Nubair does not decide to go queen here, rook here to the file. He goes for the plane earlier with her
Okay,
I think he's
it's
tired of
still
waiting.
along with the
He goes
same
H4.
plans. Along the
Yeah, but
same
this
plans with
allows some
Queen.
bishop G4 tricks now. Because if we can get our bishop off for that knight, I think we're fairly happy.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, so in the previous lines, when we looked at H4, there was Bishop G4. And in this
Yeah.
case, okay, there is still knight H2 technically for now.
Yeah.
There's also knight G5 and knight
If we
E4. I
see
mean,
knight G5, we might see H. Well, no, the H pawn is actually already defended, so there might not even be a need for that.
yeah, knight G5 is just going to E4. So why is knight H2 so good now? Well, let's see, bishop F5, rook somewhere. Takes, 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 takes. Only moves really. And then queen A5. It's that queen A5 idea, trading rooks and queen A5 that we've seen before. But why is that so good? Can you play queen b7? Queen a4, probably infiltrating to c6. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's pretty good for whites. Oh, okay, I see. So basically what happened is this bishop from d7 went to h5, and now our bishop is sitting on the diagonal, and it allows us to infiltrate on c6. But there's bishop e2, queen c2, bishop h5, queen a4, bishop e2. Come on, engine, give me the progression. Okay, so knight f1.
Queen c2.
It's
No,
it's it's still a long way to go. So yeah, bishop g4 seems pretty clear. It's still a long way to go for white. Oh wait, so we have h6. Okay, so h6 is actually, well, it's still one of the moves because
instead we see pawn to h6.
Yeah, so h6 is what in my game that I ran with the engines, black played h6, and we have this sort of structure. And let's see if we get a sort of block like my engines sort of predicted.
I'm trying to think, what is black even playing for here? Maybe they want to go knight h7, knight f6 in the future, but that seems slow. Where does black want to put their pieces is what I'm trying to figure out.
I feel like black wants to just stay put as much as possible. But I mean,
Yeah.
okay, we have queen e3, which ooh, okay. So
I
I'll come back to
see the plan,
to
but
that. Well, yeah, it makes a threat. So, okay, let's go over the threat here. So, the threat for white is probably going to be to trade rooks a bunch and then queen takes c5.
yeah.
Yep, that will be +6. Well, I see. Well, there's also the bishop hanging. So
But we'll probably see
that is
rook takes
cool.
rook, rook takes to rook, and then like rook e8 then.
Well, wait, what did you say? Rook takes rook here?
Yeah,
Rook
and then
takes
rook takes
b2?
rook, and then you go rook e8.
Yes, rook e8. Yeah, bishop f6 is a bit weak, but yeah, rook e8. Exactly. That would be the way to go,
Because
according to
now
the
you're gonna move your
computers.
queen, otherwise they want a pawn.
So queen f4, and
F6.
surprisingly,
No, bishop
surprisingly
f6
not bishop.
wanders a pawn.
Well, you're
Bishop
attacking the
f6
rook.
wanders a pawn. So maybe we.
Well, you're attacking the rook
Yeah, but
first.
once we move, then we have to like
You have to move back.
Yeah, but how do we defend this pawn though? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, probably not bishop f6. So it says bishop c8 is one move, probably threatening knight d7. Yep, knight d7 is one of the threats. So yeah, so this is basically this variation with rook takes rook is basically forced. Otherwise, we're gonna have takes, queen takes c5, winning a pawn.
Yeah, and so
So
I
everything
think
should be forced.
rook is basically the only play. Yeah, and then I guess you can try some other move other than rook e8, but rook e8 seems most principled. So we'll say rook e8, and then yeah, this is.
Now, actually,
This
so
looks bad for white. What is the eval though after all of
queen
these
e3 actually, yeah, queen e3 kind of gave it all away actually though, because after rook e8, it's like plus 0.4, so it's borderline even, which is pretty interesting. So queen e3, I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, everything here's very difficult to see what else white can do because it says queen e2. Oh, okay. I mean, queen e2. I guess if rook takes b2, you can take with the queen and get the file. But the thing is, you're not making the same threat. So what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
If bishop f6, you take, take, and then knight d2. Actually, I think we looked at this. I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, it was queen e2, and then you try to go knight e2 and knight e4. That was the engine suggestion, huh? Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, what a difference. One square difference, queen e3 and queen e2, and they kind of like one of them loses a lot of the advantage, which is it's crazy to me. Right? It reminds me of the Titus game where all the moves are just kind of flipping
Yeah.
up and down. And it's nothing's obvious.
Chess is brutal.
Okay, so how much has he been thinking? Samrug's been thinking for 4 minutes
Is
right now.
absolutely a brutal game. No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean,
Critical
yeah,
decision
even
there.
in the
But
simul yesterday, I mean, in the simul yesterday, I did lose a really weird game where someone sacked a piece, and I defended a little bit too passively, and then I found myself not having any moves. So I was trying to just like move, not think too much,
ooh,
move quickly.
we do
Oh,
see bishop
wait,
f6, which I think Samrug is just missing that he's blundering this pawn.
no way. There's no way he missed that.
Yeah, I think
Because I
we're
saw
gonna
that
see.
like very quickly without the engine too.
Yeah, I did too. Maybe he thinks there's some line that
Yeah, let's
we're
see.
missing.
I'm gonna try to predict what he may have seen. So takes, queen c5. Oh, okay, I see. I think this is what he's been probably calculating. Takes and bishop b2.
Yeah, but this can't be enough. You've got like
But what do you do?
trying to think.
It's actually still not very obvious white's how is
Bishop
white gonna win?
d6,
Bishop d6. Okay, we're gonna take
e2.
here.
Then trying to think, how do I get my knight to attack this pawn? Because if I can get my
So
knight
I mean,
there, maybe I go
so
knight
yeah, so one
e5. So yeah, knight.
95. Wait, I'll look at that in 1 second, right? So why not just knight d2?
Or I have this. I have a
What's
flashing
going
move, knight
on? I
d4.
want to play knight d2.
Knight
Okay,
d4 is
if
flashing.
knight d2, it says that's not a good move because of bishop a4, knight e4, and knight d7.
Yeah,
Okay,
knight
so
d2 is
black
also
can
good.
defend. King h2. What? Wait,
Yeah.
I think, are you
Okay,
lagging?
so
I
maybe
think you,
we have this flashing move, knight to d4 though. Knight d4, it's flashy, but I think it's working. Yeah,
yeah. So the threat here is probably,
knight
actually, I
d4.
mean, yeah, so it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same. So as 91, the computer's saying 91, and the idea is instead of attacking the c5 pawn, how about we just attack that bishop off of c5? So we're gonna go knight c2, attacking the bishop off of the c5 pawn. So if a5, there is king f1 is a little bit better, but knight c2, that's not good. Bishop b2 takes, bishop a4. I mean, it seems pretty winning though. So
Yeah.
91 and 94 is probably about the same.
Yeah, and we see
Mhm.
takes. So similar position on the board, and we see queen takes c5 on the board. Now
Yes.
Samruk will show us what he's calculated.
I mean, it has to be that because that's the most complicated thing I see in this endgame. It's to try to go after the b2 pawn, and then I mean, white should still be winning, but it's still a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. We'll see.
I'm really expecting this, so I'm just gonna go there. Bishop takes a3. I mean, White can play a lot of things here though.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah, it's actually not even so obvious how you keep attacking. Knight c6, knight d7. Like you're just moving pieces in, but you're not hitting anything. Okay, bishop c7,
Mhm.
bishop c1, knight e7, get paid, bishop d6. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be hard. I think maybe white just has such a big advantage with the protected pass pawn, and I guess black has weaker pawns, so it's probably gonna be a material equal endgame where white is better because the pawn structure is more solid with the protected pass
Yeah.
pawn versus the disconnected. So I guess it's gonna be a grind. You're gonna just treat it like a regular endgame where you just bring your king in, bring some pieces in, just attack some weak pawns, and so on.
Yeah. I have a feeling that this is maybe going to go in the Bears' favor, though.
Yeah,
This
definitely. I
seems like
mean,
an endgame that's much easier to play.
yeah, I mean, white has no issues really, nothing to worry about. Worst case scenario is a draw, and black is just hoping to hold on.
Yeah.
So this happens. We're probably gonna see bishop b2. And actually, the cool thing is now that they're getting close to 10 minutes each, we're gonna see moves probably a lot more quickly. We're gonna be able to follow much more fast.
Yeah, and this is the
So
time of the game where we're probably going to see the most amount of mistakes as well. Just because when you get low on time, you are in these really complicated positions, and you know it's hard. It's very hard finding all these top moves, especially when you're facing such a strong opponent and you're mentally exhausted. So we'll see how this ends up going.
hmm
For those of you saying
so
hello in the chat, hello.
so what was the let's see, what was the time control here? What's the delay and increment? Was it
90-30, I believe.
Yeah, it makes sense. For FIDE, I think that might be one of the minimum time controls. You can't really go much slower than that. So
No.
okay, so in that case, the 30-second increments will make it a little bit longer,
Yes.
but it's still gonna be quite tight. I remember me playing in those plus 30 games, and everything feels very like the time feels very like it runs out quickly too.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, so bishop b2 was played, and now we're gonna see what white does here. Nubair. So white has a lot of moves. Let me just take a look at the top five if I refresh.
Hmm.
I'm gonna flip the board. Okay, so basically, white has a lot of winning moves. Like almost everything is winning for white just because the long-term advantage of the pawn structure. But I'm interested to see if he's gonna find some sort of plan of attack. The c5 pawn is going to be defended very easily by the bishop on a3 and a knight on d7 very soon. So
I'm surprised Bishop D6 is not already on the board because Nubair is getting a little low. I would have expected him to play a little faster. That being said, maybe he's just trying to determine, like, because maybe like bring your king in with king to f1 or something like that. Maybe he's considering slow plans. I think all of them are reasonable, but
yeah, I'm wondering right now why he spent like 2 minutes right now so far thinking,
this
and I'm
doesn't
not
seem
sure
like a.
what.
But I guess with the plus 30, he thinks he can afford it.
I mean, I'm sure he can definitely make good moves quickly. But yeah, he's been okay. I mean, okay, so he played 95.
Seems like a good plan.
Okay, um, reasonable. I guess so. If he gets to trade the knight for the bishop, it's probably going to be easier to
Yeah. So
push the
I
pawn
expect
with
something like
bishop f5.
bishop a4 here, maybe.
So let me just make a quick. So if this happens, yeah. So bishop a4 is the move that the engine always liked. But if this happens, I wonder. Takes. Bishop c7, and then you maybe kick the knight and push. So I guess g6 is probably a move, but there's always you can always kick that knight from all the directions. Very difficult. So definitely I wouldn't allow that trade. So bishop a4. It's one of the only places for the bishop anyway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean bishop a4 almost has to be played in my opinion, because it's like
Yeah, letting that is just not good. Huh.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm not so sure how Samrug is even supposed to stay in the game in this.
I mean, whenever I'm playing and I feel like I have a worse position, I always take like consolation in the fact that at least the material is equal. So if
That's
you can
true.
just hold on to everything, maybe you can hold on to the game. And I think I saved a nice draw against Tim. What was his name?
Rademacher?
Jordan Tim.
Oh,
No, it
Jordan.
wasn't Rod. It was Jordan Tim. I saved like I blundered it like early in the game, and then I was down, and then actually I was even down material, I think, but I had just some small little threat that just kept him stuck a bit, and I managed to hold it and hold it and hold it till the end, till a draw. And actually I was winning at the end, but I didn't want to push for some reason. I just wanted to go home. But so the hope is if you can just somehow hold on to everything and be
Yeah.
solid enough,
And
maybe
black
you
still
can
has
win the game.
tricks. Black still has some tricks. Like for example, if we see bishop a5, if white gets too hasty and goes d6 trying to get d7 in, they lose the game instantly. So it's not like it's without some tricks.
D6, D7.
Yeah, so I'm saying if you go like bishop a5 d6, you blunder this knight on a5. And so like you do still have to be a little bit careful. Of course, this is not going to happen, but I'm saying, there's still chances. Instead, we see bishop to e8, which is a little surprising. It seems less active, but okay.
I mean, it makes sense. Actually, maybe if I was in the game, I'll think I want to keep the bishop close. Makes sense to me why somebody would play it. Yeah, bishop a4 just seems like it's so far away from everything, but it somehow is good. But I guess if you don't have the engine, it might be a little bit hard to convince yourself to play that. But bishop e8, it's not like it's that much worse. I mean, it is a tiny bit, but so what can
Yeah.
happen here? Knight
Now what do you?
c6.
So Nubair decided on a different move.
Oh,
He
bishop
said,
f5.
yep, he decided on bishop f5, which I think makes good sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, you almost have to take the pawn. I don't see.
Yeah, I wonder if he wants to play d6 and d7 right now, though. Because
d6. I guess you got to go like.
seems like a
Yeah, you just win with
pretty.
these.
I mean, you have to kind of play
No, but
if g6,
no. If
d7.
you play here, then you see bishop takes, and this is no good.
Oh, and
No,
there's gonna be f6,
yeah,
and it's a draw. Whoa,
yeah, but
that's that's
he has bishop h3 though, and once he played
yeah,
d6.
yeah. You can always. Well, actually, bishop h3. There's f5. And
Good
now it's
point.
a
Good
draw
point.
against. You have to play bishop c8 to. It's the only move that keeps d7 available. Ah, okay, okay. So here's what black needs to do now. Actually, yeah, the bishop on e8 was actually a worse place because now you have to play bishop a4. to not let d7 drive your bishop, and then knight e6 is one way to try to hold on. Oh
Yeah.
man. So yeah, bishop e8 was actually just yeah, it was a
It has
worse
some
placement.
tactical trap. Yeah.
So why? So if the bishop on f5 is so good, why is it saying knight c6?
I
What's so good about
wonder
this?
if we're going to see something like bishop takes e5 and he's just going to try to play down a pawn. It's a sad move to make, but I think practically maybe this is best chance.
Yeah, the computer line is like it's kind of the computer. Yeah, I think it just thinks everything has a sort of the same amount of advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't decide on the best plan. I'm sure if I let my computer run like as if it's playing a game, it will do much better. But yeah, bishop f5 is just such a good practical idea because you're just pushing the pawn, and yeah, there are some traps, but you're just gonna be very good here. So so there is also f6 as an idea actually. Bishop f5, f6 instead of taking that pawn on a3.
Yeah,
And then knight
f6, knight
c6.
d6,
Mm,
and maybe we go g6.
no, that's a move. G6, bishop c8. And yeah, I guess you're not pushing the d pawn till the end, but you're gonna be winning this pawn. And it
Mm-hmm.
is completely winning. I can't see white not winning this game at this point.
Yeah, I think Nubair just got the better of Samrug here with the. I guess he just misevaluated this endgame, or maybe he just completely missed this trick, which is entirely possible. Because I mean, a queen sacrifice out of nowhere is not always what you're looking for. Especially, he's been playing a really long game, and he's had to calculate a lot. So it's very tricky. It's very tricky. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I think
mean,
Samrug is now down on time. So this is getting pretty serious. Samrug was up 20 minutes earlier, and now he's down 5 minutes. So this is looking more and more like Nubair's game.
yeah, I mean, when you're losing, like in the game yesterday in the Simo, and I knew I was losing, but I was still trying to find some sort of way to defend. And when you're losing and there's no way to defend, you're gonna be thinking for a while. You're gonna be thinking for infinite amount of time if it would be up to you to try to find something that isn't there. So
Yep.
when you're losing, yeah, it's definitely easy to get down on time too.
And for
Trying to
those of
find
you who
something.
don't know, Nubair, as well with OK and Ionatan here, did a simul yesterday against a few players. And he's referring to this simul because Nubair was giving a lecture and it ended with a simul. Instead, we see Samrug trying, maybe some counterplay with a5 here. Maybe he's hoping
Okay, so
e6. But
yeah,
of course,
so
Nubair's never going to blunder this.
yeah, the plan was, I guess, bishop c8 to try to go after the a6 pawn. So now it's on a5. And of course, d6, since the bishop is still here, you're going to lose your knight. And that's not good. So in that case, now knight c6 makes even more sense by the computer just to attack the a5 pawn.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say a4. Oh, and if a4, it looks like you can just attack it with the bishop now. So it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's no way out.
No, and I think with 10 minutes, this is plenty of time to calculate this because even without an engine, I'm thinking we're both seeing all these lines. They're not super complicated anymore because there just aren't enough pieces to make it complicated.
Yeah, I
Especially with
mean,
black's activity, which is practically non-existent. It's very hard to see this going anyway but in white's favor.
yeah, I mean, it's easy to go after the weak a pawn now. I just attack it with every piece. Like every piece is one step away from attacking a pawn. So what else? Like for example, bishop d6 is a move. Everything's a move here, but eventually knight c6, bishop b4, knight takes, c takes.
Yeah,
c5.
and this would be too much.
Yep, and if a4 here, bishop c2, of course. Nope, no
Yeah,
way.
I think we're seeing the writing on the wall here. I'm not. I
Yeah,
don't
so
think there
now,
are any moves aside from a piece blunder or like a full pawn blunder that are going to cost this.
you know, since we have the live stream up for the players here, I'm gonna take a quick look and try to figure out if if Samrug missed queen takes a5 or what, or if he was planning to go into this endgame. I'm gonna try to see his reaction.
Sure.
I'm gonna have to go back like a bunch of time.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Samrug tends to have a pretty decent poker face. Every time I've faced him, like even after the match, I tricked Samrug before, and he played it just like he did. And then the only reason I know he tricked him is he went, "Yeah, I missed this move," but he doesn't show it on his face usually. Not from the times I faced him.
Hmm.
And we do see Nubair play knight to c6 on the board, which was the move that you were pointing out, and I think was the top computer move. It's provoking this a4 push, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a handshake here pretty soon. Now Samrug is a fighter, so he'll probably keep playing, but once he drops this a pawn, it might just be a little bit too much considering the strength of his opponent Nubair here.
Okay, I think I have the live stream up on this point. Just about.
Yeah, we see Sammy taking the a3 pawn. Since you're driving this, do you want to forward to the live position so everyone can see kind of what's happening? Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, it seems like
There we go. It updated.
it
There we
was.
go. It was just slow
Okay.
on my side. Yep, here takes, and now we see knight takes pawn. And yeah, I mean, clearly we're just one extra pawn. We still have our pass pawn running. All the squares are being supported. This is not looking like anything that I could even see remotely Sammy defending against someone this strong.
Now, from the live stream, when it seemed like I found the time where he played queen takes c5, yeah, I couldn't see any like jerky motion, like he missed it or anything. So I wonder. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened because it was definitely not necessary to allow it. With bishop bishop f6 was the blunder here. Wow, that's it's pretty sad. I wonder what he actually missed because he was so close to equality. He was right there.
Yeah. I'm betting that he just missed that queen c5 was an option, because the only reason I think we were aware of it is because our brains are not, we're looking at these live boards. We have the computer to help, and then on top of that, Samrug is having to do this all by himself. He's probably really burnt out. Both these players are probably running on fumes because this is a very tough matchup, and both of them are having to calculate everything, because if you slip up once against someone as strong as they are, you're just going to, lose the game. So,
for some reason, I'm still just. I feel like he didn't miss it. Like I just can't believe he would have missed it completely. Maybe he thought the end game was fine because he's winning a pawn back. That's what I would like to think. But next time I see him, I might ask him and just to find out. But that's my hypothesis. I can't believe that you would miss that. So we have g6.
Yeah, G6, I'm trying to figure out what the plan is. Maybe he wants to cut off this square, hoping for some bishop H1. Sorry, bishop H3, not bishop H1. But I mean, bishop C8 seems pretty powerful here. Even a move like bishop to D3 might be okay.
Yeah, basically any move should be still winning. Yeah, bishop C2 was just played, which was #1 on the computer's radar. But they're all basically winning. But at least now black has a small blockade on the D7 square. It has a good grip on it.
Yeah. For the person who commented, Nate, thank you for the compliments to both of us. If Ionatan hasn't seen, he just said, good job commentating. So thank you for that. Much appreciated.
Oh yeah, I see it now.
We are trying our best. So much appreciated for that compliment.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't imagine what black would do. Because if knight d7, okay, so you're attacking the bishop. Okay, I guess you will just play bishop c7. So you can try to bring your king in.
Maybe some bishop d6 is called for.
Yeah, what if bishop d6 right now? Knight b6. I mean, yeah, I guess black can still try a little bit to hold on.
Yeah. It is looking pretty desperate though, and Samrug down to 3 minutes. I'm thinking he's looking for something that's just not there. And mind you, Samrug doesn't necessarily know it's not there. All he knows is that he's a pawn down, and he's probably worse. But you know, some positions like this, there's some crazy resources. So he's just looking for anything.
Yeah, for me, I'm just trying to keep the blockade on D7 as much as possible if I'm black, and just hope for the best. Maybe bring the king in, but I think it's just gonna be a slow maneuver until white gets maybe the king in, all the pieces attacking something, and it's just gonna be a slow death.
And
there's no like.
That is a very good point. This is not a game where Nubair. I mean, Nubair. Let's say he has mate in 7 or something. No, he doesn't. But just for example, what if he does? He doesn't have to play it. Everything is winning, and so if there's a less risky line, we're very likely to see that instead, because there's no reason to gamble at all for a flashy win when you can win playing principal chess. And yeah, we do see knight b7, which is what Ionatan pointed out, and then bishop to c7 as well.
Yeah, no, I would be thinking of moves like f5, or just trying to get the king in, or just maybe the bishop on a3 to bring him back. So either bishop d2 or king f. Okay, or yeah, trying to get the king in. f6 was one of the other. Well, that extra f6 was literally my first thought, but I was like, okay, the pawn's a bit weak on g6, but at least it's defended, so it's not like it's any worse.
Yeah, and now something like bishop a4, trying to take this knight, or maybe not take the knight actually. So maybe bishop a4 is not so good, but maybe run the king in. This seems very reasonable.
So if I'll be playing, actually, if I'm white, I think I like bishop a4 just to have the option, or have my bishop pinning down pieces, being able to trade into a straight up winning endgame. Bishop a4 seems just so solid, and then I'd have to see what my knight wants to do.
Maybe we go knight to b7 just to get our knight in, because right now our knight is not really playing.
Yeah, exactly. So
bishop a5.
Yeah, so knight b7. The best way to activate the knight now, yeah, is to b7. c6, I mean,
it's playable,
maybe, but
it walks into some tricks.
But from c6, you can only really go to d8, and you can also go to d8 from b7. And from b7, you can also go to d6, and you're attacking the c5 pawn. So I guess knight b7 makes a little bit more sense, but
we'll probably see something like king f7 or king f8 here.
Yeah,
king f7 feels a little soft because of a knight b7. So instead, we actually see king f8, which I think is more accurate.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, knight b7 anyway.
And the speed that Nubair is playing shows me that, you know, he sees the end. He sees how he's going to win this. There's not a lot that can happen anymore.
Yeah, he's not too worried. So basically, almost nothing from black can move because this bishop. Okay, like if this knight moves, we're gonna trade bishops. It's gonna be pretty easy. Actually, this knight can right now cannot move anywhere. That we can't trade it. Also, so we can trade all the pieces and just be a pawn up. And the king also cannot enter any closer because our pieces are like inside. Okay, so we have a couple more moves that they played very quickly. So we have knight e5, bishop d6.
Yeah, and Nubair is just winning a piece here.
Yeah, and knight d8.
We're gonna pick off the bishop, and I have a feeling we're gonna see resignation. You
Yeah,
can
I
see
mean,
Nubair. He's relaxed back in his seat, his arms crossed. I think they both know it's over.
Yeah, I mean, you get the c4 pawn, but you're not getting the d pawn.
No. We see knight t8 on the board, and Samrug is thinking, I don't think he's going to want to play on from this position.
Yep, I'm looking at the live feed right now, and knight d8 looks like it's on there.
Yeah, I'm expecting a handshake in a minute or two here, because there's not a ton to play for, and that's the big problem. If Samrug had tricks, you know, he should play on, but there really is nothing. He does play on though. He does play on. So
yeah, he took the pawn, but yeah, bishop moves somewhere like c7.
Yeah, we're probably gonna see, I don't know, bishop c7, and we're just gonna run.
So that makes me wonder, because this whole problem came from that Benoni structure, and I wonder if black would have just played one of the more solid moves with d5 instead of d6 all the way on move 3, if anything else would have gone differently, because I mean, why just start off with like a +1 advantage anyway?
Yeah.
So what would have happened if you just played some like more normal stuff?
And to my knowledge, Samrug does not usually play Benoni structures. He's very much a French player, and I don't know if I've ever seen him attempt a Benoni structure against someone this high rated. I've seen it against like a 2000, but that's about it.
If you wanted to play Benoni, you would have played c4, c5 right away, but he didn't even want to do that. So I think he seemed like he got kind of tricked into it with the weird move order.
I agree. That's kind of what I think happened too, because I can't see Samrug intentionally doing this to himself.
Yeah, I mean on move 3, even like over here when he played e4, I mean I was like even c5 here is like more normal. I mean you have to play e5 knight g8, but it's still fine. It's technically fine. But if you don't know that, it looks scary.
Yeah, it definitely does. If you know the theory, you know this is equal with some accurate book moves. But the question is, does he know the accurate book moves? Because I don't know if he plays it. He must have looked at it at some point. But you know.
Yeah, I think definitely there's actually pretty much everything is a weird theory that he might not have seen, because d5 there's always like these e5 moves, and d4 takes, and I mean it would have been fine. So it's not a problem. There's also e5 here, which still kind of works. It's still technically equal, and it doesn't allow whites. It's just you don't want to allow white center so easily.
Yeah.
But okay, let's see what happened in the game. This
still going.
It's
their live position. I have a feeling you're going to see bishop e5, and we do. E4, sorry. I'm thinking in wrong notation, wrong ranks.
Okay. I mean, I guess if you're putting on a show and you're playing a game, you might as well just play on until they make a queen at least.
Yeah, and we may
This is
even
for the
see
spectators.
mates considering, but we'll see. Yeah, Nubair's clearly going to win this one. I don't think there's anything Samrug can do short of pull off a miracle to save this game. And yeah, we're probably going to see Bishop take c5 in this position.
Bishop
Seems like
takes c5, taking the last pawn.
Yeah, and all of Samrug's chances are gone after I think Bishop c5 here, or maybe he goes knight e6 first, but Bishop c5 just seems a little bit stronger because it stops any ideas of king to f7. And I think king to f7 is a slightly more improving move. But honestly, at this point, it's just all details. It is so completely won that I think it does not matter.
Yeah, there's definitely no way to pull any tricks here, unless White does it to himself.
Yeah, Bishop c5 though. Another thing about it is the knight is trapped. Instead, we see push. This does make sense, but I'm a little surprised to see it.
Yeah, I mean, at this
completely
point, I
winning.
guess c4 is the one way to try to make a threat. Yeah, this was played c4.
Yeah.
There's a small pin on the bishop, but
Well, we can even play d7 here though.
yeah, even d7 still works because there's knight e6 check.
Yeah.
And then queen. So I guess you saw that one.
And we may actually see d7 here, just flashing. No, instead we see knight to e6 first, and
Same
then we
thing.
may see e7.
Exact same variation.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like that's it. Yep, stop the clock. Shake
And
hands.
it looks like the game is over.
Yeah, very tough one. Very unfortunate opening choice. I mean, even the opening wasn't the big cause. It was that bishop f6 move and allowing the queen take c5. Which,
yeah, do we want to recap quickly just the entire game, kind of go over the flow of the game and how this happened? Because
yeah,
this was a long fought battle.
So White starts off with c4 in English, and Samra goes into his normal setup with knight f6 and e6, going for d5. But White plays an interesting move, e4, and probably Samra didn't study the main lines after d5 and c5, which after this you have to play knight to g8. So it's a little bit like all these lines are a little bit awkward. They're not what you would expect. So if he hasn't studied this, he might not be sure what to do. So he plays a new move, d6, which gives up the center. And after a long series of moves, he plays c5, and we get into a Benoni structure. And after some more development, White sets up the bishop on h2, which is probably a plan he's looked at before, to just target d6 the whole game. And then rook b1 and a3 and b4. That was his plan. Now, Black had a lot of times, a lot of chances to play knight to e5 and try to equalize the game by trading one of the pieces. But unfortunately, it doesn't do that. And at this point, it's still like holdable, but after these moves, after a little bit of shuffling, White plays queen to e3, which would allow for a more or less equal position after takes and rook e8 and trying to hold on. But it seemed like it might have been a bit too passive for Black. So Black tries to go for this move, which now I'm not sure if he did or did not. Maybe it's 50-50 if he did or didn't miss this following tactic. So bishop f6 was the final mistake of the game, because after all the trades, there is a simple queen takes c5, and there's a pin on the pawn. And maybe he saw that he was winning this pawn back, but unfortunately the pawn structure is so bad for Black and so good for White that it's just a long-term advantage, and there's nothing to do. And
Yeah, in the end, Nubair ends up winning this piece. And just for the viewers, let's say we see king to f7 in this position. It looks like it's hitting the knight and you have to defend it, but you really don't. If you go pawn to d7, you're threatening to queen in two ways, pawn to d8 and pawn takes c7. So if we see knight takes bishop in this position, we're just going to see a queen, and this is too much. Nothing really to play for. You know, we can see king takes knight, but when you're up a full queen for a piece, this is far too much. Yeah, queen d4, winning the pawn back. It's just, there's nothing to play for. So we saw a handshake, and the players agreed white wins this one. So very well fought game. Tomorrow, Samrug will be rocking the white pieces. We'll probably see a very different game. Samrug tends to enjoy a lot of these d4 lines, and he has a lot of theory on that, and actually he plays a few other things. I'm not sure which opening he'll choose against Nubair, but we'll definitely get something Sammy's more familiar with.
So I remember pretty much every time I've seen him play against strong people and anyone, I've seen him play e4. So I'm expecting to see some e4 and some very long prep and some sort of line.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably more likely. The only time I've seen him play d4 was, I think, against a 2100. So maybe he was just trying to pull out something that hoped the 2100 prepped for him, and all of a sudden he plays something he's never played before. So there we go. Yeah, but we'll see what that Samrug ends up coming up with. It'll hopefully be another well-fought game, because this one there was a lot going on. It felt a little slow and positional. That is, I believe, Nubair's style. That's a lot of strong players' style, especially with Carlsen being the person who's dictating the chess atmosphere, and it's clearly effective. So yeah, we'll see if it's going to be a flashy tactical game, because I know Samrug has, even when he was younger, always liked those sharp positions, or if it'll be a slower game, kind of like this one with a lot of nuance.
Right, I'm very excited for tomorrow, and yeah, I'll probably be watching.
I will
this
see.
time.
Well,
Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining.